Hello, hello.
Hello. Hi, Simon.
Welcome, one and all.
He's over there.
You're over there. You're over there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, how was the holiday?
Not too bad, thank you. See if I can get these head.
Very cool. Okay, I want to know how everybody's holiday was. Come on, type it in chat. Flood the chat.
Right. Oh, these headsets messing me up again.
Of all the people to have technical problems, Simon. What do you mean it's hard to find me here?
There we go. Right. Shall we crack on and then we can get to the Q&A section and coding and everything else?
Sounds good. All right. We're going to try a different way of doing the do's and don'ts today. Do be a decent human being. Don't be an idiot. If you are an idiot, you get kicked out of here and we go share your name with everybody who might be able to, kill your logins to different places like Discord and Slack. Okay, that's about it.
I will also mention that you can't
have fun. Have fun.
I was going to say you can't post links in the chat. So if you post a link, we won't get any. Not just a link, but we won't get any of your message. So don't post links. Yes. If you do want to post some code to us to look at, you need to go to gist.new, and that'll take you to GitHub's gist page for generating new gist. Post your code there, and then take the hash. That's the hexadecimal number from the URL after you post it. Put that in the chat, and then we can go look that up. Right.
In other words, when you create a new gist at gist.new, you get a link with a great big number on it. We need the number, not the whole URL. If you copy the whole URL, it's not going to show for us. You'll see it in YouTube. We won't.
Right. Let's do some quick, brief introductions. My name is Simon Lightfoot, Flutter Community Leader, CTO at DevAngels London. You can follow me on Twitter at DevAngels London and on Blue Sky B, devangels.london, and so on and so forth, other places. Scott.
My name is Scott Stahl. I am a community leader, also organizer GDG Cleveland, and we do dog rescues, and you can find me under Good Dog Apps.
And we have a Randall.
Hey, Randall Schwartz here. I haven't seen you all since last year. I can only do that joke so many times. I got to keep doing it. Hey, so I'm a Google developer expert for Dart and Flutter, one of 10 in the United States, which means I spend all my time answering questions online on places like Stack Overflow and Discord and Reddit and places like that. But for this show, I am the question magician, which means I am watching the chat to see what questions people are marking. They're marking by putting Q: in front, as it says, scrolling across the bottom of this screen. If you put a Q in front of it, I know it's for us as the panelists, not just for amongst each other, talking to each other, which you do a lot of over there. So put Q: in front of your question, and it will get flagged so that we will answer it as time permits. And other than that, I'm a full-time Flutter developer. I'm doing a lot of conferences. I'm doing a lot of remote presentations. And I also have a Dart and Flutter YouTube channel, but we'll talk about that later.
And we also have Danielle. Danielle, welcome.
Hey, everybody. Let's see. I guess I'll move this down. I like to show off my dashes and stuff, too. But the problem is the fact that the angles just don't work. So if you look at the feet there, those are the feet of my dashes. And by the way, I often back Randall up of stuff that happens backstage or before the show or whatever. He's not kidding. This is I think the fourth time I've heard him make that joke today about last year.
Yep.
Anyway, hey everybody, I'm Danielle Cox. I'm one of the organizers of the Flutteristas. I'm also work for a startup called Ardley, and full-time Flutter developer myself. Not a GDE yet, but I would love to be. We'll keep working toward that. And so that's me. But if I could just take a couple of seconds here, if you've been following us on Twitter, I don't know about Blue Sky, I haven't checked that, but you would have noticed that the Flutteristas, we have announced our next conference, and that's coming up in April. So if we have any Flutteristas or prospective Flutteristas out there that would like to present, you've got a little bit of time still to get a talk in. And we would love to have that, and we're really looking for people that are new and trying to help you get going and bring you up on stuff. So that's one of the wonderful things about this conference, is that we try to put on a good quality production. We have usually help from people like Simon and Scott and Majid, and all helping us out to put on a quality production. But it's really intended to feature and also teach some of our Flutteristas how to do great presentations. So it's a great time. So if you want to try to present and you happen to be female or non-binary, get yourself into the Flutteristas, get a proposal in, and I think you've got great chances of getting accepted. And otherwise, I would encourage everybody to watch, and we'll be talking about this more as it comes up.
Now, the last one was huge, right? So
yeah, we went 12 hours last time. That's one of the things that we try to do is, since we are virtual and our memberships only ever really support being virtual, what we do is we try to put on a big long day so that everybody has a chance to watch and or present in their own natural time of wanting to watch and or present. So that it'll all live forever on YouTube, but we like that live conference kind of feel, so we want to bring people in at a time that works for them.
Yeah.
And that's so, and YouTube cuts us off at 12 hours. So if you want to know why 12 hours, that's because that's the most we could do.
Yep. What works in Indonesia does not work in Mexico.
All right.
So there's the story we found out about that limit because we put on a 28-hour live stream, which was a Flutter. It was a Flutter live hackathon. When was that? 2019? It was 2019, I think. And no one told us about the limit, and our backup that was recording the stream stopped recording. So we didn't actually have the full stream. And then at the end,
the entire stream died. Well, because I got a frantic call from Nash.
But anyway, near the end of the stream, it was like, here's a listing on YouTube, but no video. It's like, why is there no video? Like what happened to it? And they're like, it's gone. It's longer than 12 hours. You don't have it. And so luckily, we knew someone at the time, Martin McGuinness, who used to work on the YouTube team, who then moved to the Flutter team. And we went, can you go find this, please? Can you go find our video? And he managed to pull an internal ticket and find the video for us. So we managed to get that back.
I have to step away for a second. I'll be back.
Yeah, so we managed to get it back from oblivion, but
wow,
not everyone's that lucky. So yeah, and that was not what they do normally. So yeah, can't expect that again.
Yeah, really.
No.
Well, we know now not to make a stream for more than 24 hours.
That won't be limiting for me. I'm not going to be doing that anyway.
We actually did it in shifts before because there's no way any one person can be up that period, and especially concentrating really different. We were switching out different feeds and bringing stuff in and out, and it was like we needed to have
it was a great production.
It was great. Yeah,
we had a lot of fun.
That music though, that was on loop. Oh my god. After 20 hours of the same music looping around.
All I can remember is Frederick's Yellow Pants.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, we can get to. I don't think I've got any. Have you got anyone got any news around Flutter at the moment? They completed the merge. That was happened. I know that much.
Yep.
There's so much that happened, and I was so busy with family and holidays. I missed a lot of it myself. So, hey, chat, tell me what's been going on.
Yeah. The mono repo has landed. They've now got new setup instructions for building the Flutter repo if you wanted to build it with the engine and everything.
I think Puro is still slightly broken, but he's fixing it, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it won't install master anymore because apparently the location of the binaries for the master release is now in a different place somewhere on the GitHub. So it's broken.
Well, I'll do it.
It does work for like stable and beta and any specific version number, but it doesn't work for master. That's okay though. He'll get it fixed.
I definitely concur. I want Flutter GP on Windows, definitely.
Yep.
I think the thing is, it's one of those things where you need to use they need to use Vulkan, right? And then there's a DirectX. You have to go for a DirectX like layer or something. I remember there was what was that project? There was a project called, was it Angle, which would convert OpenGL. It would convert OpenGL to DirectX. So if you had OpenGL code, you could run it on DirectX only platform. It's really going to bug me now. I'm going to have to look it up.
router's in maintenance.
No, it's called Angle. Yeah, almost native graphics layer engine.
Of
course.
A backronym, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the Angle project. Yeah. So if anyone's actually interested in that kind of stuff, I'll pop the link in the chat. It's a Google Chromium project. I would suspect they would use this if they're gonna need to bring it to Windows without having to do DirectX bindings.
Ashutosh, if you're marking part 2, we never saw part 1. We have no idea what you said in part 1.
I think
part 1 is not marked as part 1.
Yeah, it's I have a test environment.
Where is that?
Anyway, right.
It's 2 up from that one in the marked ones. Look at the marked ones. 1207.
Anyway, shall we start with some? We can start on some questions.
I got it. Yeah. We could start.
Sure. Right. Since nobody's going to tell me what's been going on in Flutter. Thanks, folks.
Yeah.
Is there a way to send an ID when creating a WebSocket? Okay. First of all, is that the real solution to your problem? I'd like to validate client permission to connect. With HTTP, I'm sending a UUID in the header, but I'm not sure how to get it to HDR with the WebSocket.
You do the same thing. You can send headers with WebSockets. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything special. I can't think of anything special. You should just be able to do. Which WebSocket library are you using? I'd say that much right now.
Does it have access to the meta stuff in a WebSocket? I think that stuff's already washed away by the time it's switched format to a WebSocket.
No, when you WebSocket channel.connect. Hang on, let me load this up because that's this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But regardless of that, you could also make that part of your in-band protocol on your WebSocket, which is the first message you send should be the UID. Yep. That way you know who you're talking to.
So the sort of default WebSocket channel, right? The Flutter package, right? That has, remember rightly, connect. Let's see. This is where we forget. Yeah, see, this wants to establish the connection. You can do it. I've done it. So give me a second here.
So it's using self and WebSocket channel. Yeah,
the thing is, this is what this is doing here. This is actually building a channel based on if it's web or not. But on the non-web one, I'm pretty sure you can. The one time I want it. I mean, you can do query params. That's the other thing, right? So you can always put in your URL. You can always put a query param, right? So question mark, token equals blah blah blah, ID equals XYZ. So there's definitely ways of getting around it. I mean, initial WebSocket connection actually establishes a HTTP connection. And you can actually send. I can't find the function now, of course, when I want it, but you can send headers and have them validate. How do you share a gist? Copy the end part of the gist. That's the long hexadecimal string, right? That's called the hash. And, so from the website address, copy that and paste that in the chat. That's just someone asking on the channel.
Yep.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
I'm gonna see if I can find this, but yeah, carry on, I guess. What was the rest of the question? Yeah, I mean, I don't think there was. Oops. Well, anyway.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, it was using shell from WebSocket channel. Okay. So are there any good packages for getting data from a light sensor, humidity sensor, temperature sensors, extra, etc.? Sorry. Sensors Plus seems to offer only a small subset of available sensors. Anything? It's an interesting thought.
So, I mean, real question is on what device? I mean, you haven't really explained. Are you doing this on Android, iOS? Are you doing this on Mac? Are you doing this on Windows? Are you doing this on a custom embedded device? Because it does change, right? The perspective of the advice given.
Yeah, and even if it's just Android and iOS, it's going to be different.
Mobile only. Well, it's been a few. I can't think of one particular one that I would say is better than the others. A lot of them just wrap the standard APIs. Yeah, the Sensors Plus package is on purpose limited to that because it has to support all the platforms, right? And all the platforms support all the sensors. So there's probably it's also a bit legacy going on there. So there's probably some better ways of doing it. Yeah, can't think of a particular package off the top of my head that I would recommend. Well, I will say for the previous person, there is our good friend Felix has made a WebSocket client package, which is a modification on the previous one. You'll find it here. It's called WebSocket Client. It's a WebSocket channel. And that allows you to post headers with the request. So there you go. Problem solved there. Back to where we were, sensors. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the ones I've used before, but none of them actually do humidity or light or anything like that. You could. Here's a thought. You could just make your own little one. Take the Sensors Plus package and modify it, or take one of the other ones and add to it, right? If you or just start with something from the beginning. Because I'm looking at like some of these. I mean, the first one that came up for me, the first one that came up on some searching around was this one, environmental sensor. So this does ambient light, relative humidity, ambient light, barometric, things like that, which is all about, you know, temperature, light, pressure. These are all the environmental sensors. But unverified uploader, you know, I don't know who. I mean, that just means that they haven't done a domain. But yeah, Andy from VT. What's VT?
Vermont.
Yeah.
North Hero. He lives in a place called Hero. You have to have that code.
Down the street
Yeah.
from Villain.
So yeah, I know. It looks fine to me. You know, you can get your streams and just listen on them, right? Like, gosh, get the available sensors and then listen to the events.
Simon, if someone wants to do some work on one of the Plus packages, how would they go about doing that? If they wanted to like actually do it and then get it, you know, backed up into like our, you know, actual code base.
I mean,
PR it in.
Fork it and PR it, right? I mean, you can raise an issue to if you want to start before you do something, you can start a PR on the repo, on the Plus packages repo, and go from there. So, for example, or is it Sensors Plus? Was it?
Yeah.
Let's go. So yeah, Plus plugins. You can just raise it. You could raise an issue
right? First, yeah.
Yeah, raise an issue. Yeah, feature request or you want to help and do something, and yeah, there's plenty of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Always.
Who do we have coordinating that?
I've forgotten his name right at the moment.
Is it Miguel? Am I remembering that right?
Miguel was
Is it Miguel
one. No,
Beltran?
Miguel was one of them, but no, not the primary organizer. I mean, Majid is still the primary, but I think there's someone else. I've forgotten his name, which is terrible of me, but it's just left my mind.
I'm
No.
sorry. I'm sorry to put you on the spot for that.
No, that's right. It's a name I can't remember. Anyway,
Simon can remember a line of code he wrote 15 years ago, but he can't remember where he put his keys.
Yeah.
what keys?
Yeah.
Who are you? Get off my lawn.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So let's
all right.
What's next?
Where are we? I have a test environment where I have implemented resume later feature. I initialize controllers for while resume. The questions and previously selected answers were coming, but in the drawer, it's not. And the drawer has the question numbers with answered, not visited, marked for review question status. So when I'm resuming, the state is not updating. It is stored in the database.
You've got a bug.
Yeah.
Missing a dependency somewhere.
Yeah. The answer there is updating. So
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, take us back. I mean, like first of all, it's very hard to understand the question. So just be honest. So
okay.
We've got
And
a test
apparently
environment
he did post a gist.
Implemented and resumed later. Did he post a hash for it? Oh, he did.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go have a look at that.
Yeah.
Let's go look. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Let's hide the question for a second. Right. So
yeah,
where we're at, people. Okay. So question status. So we've got Flutter River Pod. Question status. Draw instructions. Right. Okay. On questions tab. Question status.
Oh, sorry. It moved on me again. I hate it when it does that. Oh, it did it again. Stop typing, people. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so using RiverPod, update the widget. What you're saying is the questions aren't updating, right? So you're basically saying these providers aren't updating the state. Let's skip all this UI. Don't particularly care about that. Get question status. Sure.
Probably not properly updating a change notifier or properly
Test environment.
State.
Hey a minute. Test environment. So you're mocking the information. Test M, user controller, current resume provider. I don't know what you mean by resume. I'm really kind of curious what you're left at. So this is when you leave the app, like you can stop a timer and start a timer again. Is this the notion of this whole resume thing?
He's saying check in it.
Yeah. Oh. I checked it. Right, anyway. I'm more interested about the fact that this, I mean,
there's a lot of reads in there, which don't set up dependencies.
a lot of this is just actions though, right? So button press, do this.
Okay. Oh, yeah, those are fine.
I mean, add post frame callback set state. What are you doing? Answered questions provider state equals read current reason provider notify state attempted questions.
It's not the way to get
Later.
state.
He said later in chat. So he's correcting that.
Submit it, like finish like. No, I'm with you. No, I'm with you. Like you can pull. So basically, the notion of what you're trying to do here is they're doing some quiz, test, whatever it is. You've got questions and answers. They can start filling out the form and they or filling out their answers, and then they can leave the app, and then they can resume the app and continue where they left off. But the obvious answer here is that you're not restoring the state correctly, right? So feel from this just doesn't. This is just not right, right? For a start, I can see what you're trying to do. I mean, so the problem here is you're assuming that when the app goes away, your resume state is going to be there, and I can tell you right now, it's not. You can leave the app, and you'll lose the contents of this provider, right? Because it gets removed from memory. So. Right. So this is not good enough, right? I don't know how. Do we know where this is defined? No. So your current resume provider, I mean, you're reading it on a timer, start timer, wherever you start the timer, you start the test. I'm going to hazard a guess and just say that you're not. No, this will be fetched from DB. But is it? Is it being fetched before you try and restore it there? Because you set a frame callback, which is the first frame rendered. Are you sure your database has got the data and it's inside the provider before you try and read and set it up?
So it's a question of, is it waiting for the async?
Which doesn't look like it is. But I mean, I'm not going to presume to know enough because I don't have enough code here, right? I mean, perhaps this is an interesting one to sit down with, but yeah, it's one you're going to need kind of more code than this, or at least a bigger picture. I mean, Randall's a Riverpod expert here, but
yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of reads where it's not, but we figured that out. I'm not seeing enough in this code sample to actually understand what the processes are that are involved here yet.
I mean, this just tells me enough here that you got ref read from the provider on start timer. Start timer is being called during a init state. And then you've also got post frame callback getting
Simon,
reading the notifier.
Comment.
If you're trying to use ref in a consumer widget, it needs to be a consumer stateful widget. Then you get ref, and you can use it in an init state.
Yeah, just make a.
You're using the wrong kind of widget. Yeah, use a stateful consumer widget.
It is. He's in that.
I don't know that he is because it says you can't call ref in init state.
He's in the consumer.
You can once you have a consumer stateful widget. If it is consumer stateful, then why can't you call ref read? That doesn't make any sense. So you have to explain why. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we can't exactly run this. So yeah, I'm sorry. We'll try our best.
I want to interject a meta comment because I've seen this over the months, over the years of doing this particular role here as the question magician. If you need two parts to ask your question, it's too complex for this show. That's been pretty much a 90% correlation there. There have been exceptions on both sides. But but really, if you need two parts to ask the question, maybe go to the Discord, go to Slack, go somewhere and post your question. Because we'll keep needing more context. Okay, so that's just my little dance.
On a different point, Christian, apparently somebody is not aware of your hard work.
Yes.
Because this is being done.
I will find
it has been done. If you go back and look at things later. And what was the other? Anyway.
So all of the questions and answers are definitely captured. And I will get the link to the repository right now. If anyone wants to take a look, you can find them all here on Christian's repo. Thanks again, Christian.
Yeah.
It's a great service.
Incredible. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Let's move on.
Yes.
What is the future of connecting Flutter with native code directly?
What do you want better than what we got? Really?
They-
FFI, Genie, all that stuff.
They're improving it.
Yeah, they are.
It's constantly getting better. How far do you need it to be?
Let me get you the repo you need to be following. There you go.
Oh, and there's no clouds in the sky. You know what that means this time of day. Ugh.
Oh no. Sun in
No
the face.
clouds in
on
the
it.
sky in Portland?
Yes, I know. It's so rare. That's why I usually don't have to worry about it. But it's this
So-
time of day, this time of year, and no clouds at the same time are definitely a problem for me taping this show.
So this is what you probably want to be following. This is the repo that holds all the new, all of the previous and new native code connection logic and everything else that goes along with it. So there's a lot of packages in here you may not have seen, like Swift Objective-C, SwiftGen, which are all coming along very nicely and in development, but you can try them out. I'm sure they'll love your feedback and information about how you're using the tool chains and various other things, but it is improving all the time. There you go.
Alrighty.
I mean, just to be clear, you can just call out any native function, right? Like that's FFI. That's inbuilt. You can do it now. But it's nice to have things that generate code and make things easier for you, so you don't have to go to the raw levels. Yeah.
Alrighty. How to best use log in Sentry. I would like to send error logs to Sentry. Is it possible to listen to all logs I create and send them to Sentry?
Yes. Do that. So I mean, like there's logging package and logger package. Both are basically loggers, right? You create an instance of a logger, you call your log warning, log whatever level you want, and then there's a place where it records each of those messages that you log at the top level. You can then store them in a essentially in a FIFO. A FIFO list, right, of like 100 lines, right? So each time you add an item to the list, you check to see if it's greater than your limit, say 100, and then you drop off the one at the end. You do remove last, right? So always ensure that you have the last 100 lines of the log logged. You can say 1,000, 2,000, I don't know, it's up to you. You can base it on bytes and have bytes per line, whatever you want, right? And then when Sentry crashes and reports, it has a feature for attachments, and you can attach those lines to the logs. You can also do breadcrumbs, and you can enable them as breadcrumbs as well and drop them in that way. There's plenty of ways Sentry has of customizing your error feedback and attaching data. That's it. You just take a list and attach it. Make it use like a buffer, make a string, concat them all together with like new lines. Attach it as a file. Yeah, log. Done.
But I mean, and my experience with this isn't so much the Sentry part of that, but it's also the listening to all logs I create and send them whatever kind of thing. We on our web app we started sending stuff to AWS, and you can pass it a parameter in to our log that says, I want to print this level, or I want to to the console, I want to send to AWS this, to CloudWatch this level. But I mean, but then once you've set that up, every time that you go to your log function, it can tell, is this something I want to log or not, and it can choose to do it. So I mean, that could be whatever you want it to be. That's the way that we use logging. But that's the way it works. Is you can do whatever you want whenever you log a message.
Yeah, and then like you could. I mean, imagine this: you could set your level for that user remotely in the user config, and then so if you want to, like, some users having a particular problem, set it to debug, and then all the logs from all their actions are getting logged. Next time there's a crash, you get lots more information from them. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, this is the logging package from Dart.dev.
Uh-huh.
And as you can see here, you got like what level do you want to log all, and then when you get like a stream here of records each time one's logged, and you can log out whatever level you want.
And you can put whatever you want in that print. Yeah.
Create as many loggers as you want throughout your code, and then you can do log.fine or log.severe or whatever.
Yeah.
and that's it. And it has like this hierarchical logging feature to kind of.
Yeah, and by the way, in practice, that's too many levels they've got, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
I
the
can't
thing is, you
define
don't have
myself.
to be clear. You don't have to be using them, right? And most of these levels, these are actually just a decimal number, right? So you can actually put whatever you want in between. But yeah, I mean, was it debug info, warning, error, and then what the fuck, shout, this is extreme.
Yeah. No, but like as an example, we, because we don't want to be sitting around,
I want to sit around and turn into a robot, apparently.
Like I'm cutting out. Sorry.
You've got packet loss, Danielle.
But
You're back.
Yeah,
I
think. Am I back? Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
But like, since we don't want to send out PII to Amazon, if I say I want everything from fine and higher, and I want it to both print and go to Amazon, I'm going to print the fine ones. I'm not going to send that to my external place, because I don't know all the path that's going on and stuff. So I mean, you can add whatever logic you need in there to handle it. So
I found it's quite nice just to say, on the latest error event, capture everything that was logged at whatever level before that, and then you're sending your stack trace along with here's the history of what the user did for the last whatever period of time that they were doing it, and helps you kind of give you context as to how they got to that place with the stack traces, right? And there's other things, interesting things that you can do with Sentry and other products like that, where you can send back state, right? So you can say they had this as their app state at the time, right? Or this is their information at the time, so you can see how the app got into the situation where it bugged out and crashed, Anyway, I think it's enough about that.
What do you think about Shorebird? Well, the first things I think about Shorebird are, first, if anybody knows what they're doing on this, it's Eric Seidel and Felix, because Eric is one of the founders of Flutter, and Felix was a senior engineer with Very Good Ventures. And also, man, do they put out a lot of updates, because I get a Discord alert every single time they do. And there are times when it's more than one a day. So that it's very current.
CI/CD, continuous integration,
Yep.
continuous deployment.
I mean, that was actually my answer. Is Eric Seidel is crazy smart. So
I will caveat none of
I mean, it's the fact that he's one of the founders of Flutter and was the lead engineer for Flutter. I mean, if anybody knows how to create something like this for Flutter, it's going to be Eric or Hixie.
But I will caveat none of us work for Google.
Yes.
Or for Shorebird.
Or for sure.
Or for anybody else right now.
I mean, if you think you can take advantage, like Shorebird is great for those updates that only include Dart code, right? You can't update native code with this, right? So if you've got a plugin that, let's say, for example, the census package that we were just talking about earlier, you add that to your app, that's a full release. You can't release that with Shorebird, right? Because you won't have the native code. It only updates the Dart code. And this is part and parcel down to how the app stores say you can update code. And also just the limitations around like pushing native code like that, right? So, yeah. Sounds good. Should use it.
My internet seems to be going up and down. I'm not hearing most of stuff, so I suspect when I'm talking, you're not hearing most of me.
No, we're hearing you fine.
We're hearing you okay.
Okay, well, I missed most of what other people are saying, so I was thinking about dropping because it doesn't seem useful.
Refresh your browser, see if it helps.
Yeah, because I've been able to watch the. Oh, there she goes. All righty. What is the best way to use async redirection in GoRouter? When I do async redirect, it would be better if I could provide a loading screen until the async finished. Randall, are you saying something?
We can't hear you if you're saying something.
I think that's a little tricky because you can't return a sequence of things from redirect. So I think you would have to have it be sort of a two-stage logic where you redirect to an intermediate interstitial.
Go
And
around
then that trigger would then actually call the redirect function again, which could then notice that you're in the interstitial and do the actual work. I think that's the only way to do that.
Yeah, I can't think of another way. I mean, the other one is
interstitials.
I'm more concerned about the fact that you think it's correct to do it that way. That's the other side of this. Like, you can do it that way, but why? Why should this user be given a loading screen at any point? Right? I would say that, right? Like you're trying to attempt to solve something one way when actually approaching a different way is probably better. So the redirect function is asynchronous to allow you to do things like minor asynchronous things, not go to the network and download a database and do everything else you might need to do to show a loading screen, right? It should be pretty much instantaneous. Anything that's loading, anything that's going to take more than a few hundred milliseconds should not be done, right, in your redirect, because now you're doing it on every single time your redirect takes place, or whatever the logic is in your redirect, right? So that load, like whatever data you need to choose to see if you should redirect, should already be loaded in memory, right? You should already know that at that state.
All right.
Does that make sense? I think that's what I'd come back from this, Ranjit, and say,
there's something that smells about a design like that, and I like this comment here because it actually sort of gets to the heart of it, which is we don't want a spinner. We want looking at something or looking at something else. It's all we ever want.
I mean, definitely don't want to.
Now, here's an interesting one. All right. Can we embed an exe file as an asset and then trigger it inside of Windows when the app runs?
Virus.
So what you're saying is you want instructions for how to create a Trojan.
Virus.
I mean, look, the point here is there's many valid reasons to do something like this, right? But it's very much frowned upon, right? And I can't think of any reason why you need to do it. But things like setup programs and other things like launch, right? Like they will unpack and then drop files and then run the setup program to like finish the installation off or something like that, right? There's reasons to do this kind of thing. They're few and far between, right? But all you're doing is you're writing a file out. I mean, you can embed any file you want. It doesn't have to be .exe. It could be a JPEG file, whatever, right? So you embed an image in your assets, you open up the asset file, you read the bytes while your app is running, and then you do file.write bytes, write it out. Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, you can do that, right? But anyway, the point here is you can drop it out and then just do process.start, right? And start the program that you dropped out to a file on disk.
Oh.
Path provider will give you, Path provider will give you
use the library. Use the FFmpeg library. You do not need the FFmpeg command line thing.
The FFmpeg package does that, by the way. So you can just use that. But no, like you can just do process.start, right? You're using path provider to find the appropriate temporary directory to drop your file.
Reading the
it doesn't support. Apparently, it doesn't support Windows. Or why don't you go add support to it for Windows? There you go.
Yeah, that's an FFmpeg issue.
Well, it's the library issue, right? I mean, FFmpeg supports Windows just fine, but to be honest. Oh, look, FFmpeg Kit supports Android, iOS, and macOS platforms. Oh, just add the Windows platform to it, right? Just follow one of these ones and just add.
All matter of coding.
I mean, Flutter Bounty Hunters package there, run FFmpeg CLI commands from Dart. Actually, I think I worked on that package. maybe a long time ago.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's something about code that Simon cannot remember.
Yeah. It probably happens.
I don't remember what
Just
the
saying.
original package was. I don't know. Oh no, that was that's something else. Anyway, yeah. Have fun.
Well,
All right.
go on.
I have an image wrapped with a gesture detector. I'm trying to figure out how I can track if a user has tapped the left or right side from the center of the image. I've tried details, local position, direction, but not accurate. Okay. You might be overcomplicating this. What about just creating a row and putting 2 gesture detectors in there? And then figuring out if it was clicked on the right one or the left one. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the dummy way to do it.
You can just
Or
do
you
that
get
with
position.
Maybe there's a reason why you can't.
if you do 2 gesture detectors wrapped with expanded in a row and have that row wrapped in a position.fill inside a stack, and inside that stack you have your image. Now what will happen is the row.
Okay, say that in reverse. You take a stack, and inside of it you put a position.fill. Hey, I'm finishing this here.
How about I just type it and then like
stack position.fill row
Live coding
expanded with a gesture detector next to another expanded with another gesture detector.
I just type it and then you can see.
I'm losing a little bit of this, but basically what you're putting the position with the gesture detectors, and the image is the only non-position child, so that's where you get the size from. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Sounds right. I was just trying to do this, so yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
No, every time Simon says it sounds right, it means I have no idea. You
Well,
have to
no,
learn how
because
to translate Simon.
No, because I wasn't. You have your normal like mill, right? Whatever.
You could do an align left with a horizontal factor of 0.5. Aligned right with a horizontal factor of 0.5.
I've been using that lately. That seems like an odd place to put that kind of scaling kind of functionality as in the line.
Yeah, except when you really look under the hood at what Aligned is doing, it's doing some really clever things for you to do that mapping to the -1 to 1 range. And you might, if you need to also have an offset on top of your scaling, it actually makes sense to do that all at once.
Oh, I'm presuming they're smart and they know what they're doing. I'm just saying it just feels like an odd place to put it.
Yeah, that had to go somewhere.
Okay.
Or you can just do, or you fractionally sized box, as Flutter for me just said in the chat. Yeah, that also works.
Now, if
You
you
make it
notice
half
one
the
thing
size, then
Simon's
you align
doing,
left.
Fractionally sized box doesn't necessarily work, because the factors, when you use those, it's actually scaling it. A fractionally sized box is only going to put it in the. It's only gonna limit the size of the box. I don't
Well, you
think they do
still
the
need
same
to
thing.
align it. You still need to align it then. See, as long as you're doing a line, you might as well have the 0.5 there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like something like that, right? So you just got your 2 gesture detectors.
Now put your,
actually, you probably want target,
and you don't even have to really get that complicated, because you could just use this. You could create a container and put the image as a decoration inside the container, and then put the row in the container.
You mean a decorated box then? You don't need to start with a container.
No,
you could do a decorated box too.
It depends on the limits of how you're trying to display the image, right? The whole point of doing it this way is that the row is sized to the image, right? If you put it as a background, the widget sizes the image. There's a difference there, right?
Yep.
If you put it as a background, like a decoration, then it doesn't get to apply itself to the layout at all of the widget.
And what he's not saying here is that you're probably going to put the whole thing in a sized box and control the size of it externally anyway.
I mean, look, who was asking this question?
We've
I
lost
have no
track.
idea.
Was this out Ezra?
No,
'Cause
no,
Ezra
it was not
came-
Ezra.
Oh,
It's
no.
Robert.
The other, I mean, the other way of doing this, right? Which
Ezra
is
needs to come on the show.
here's the difference, right? Here's an interesting point around this. So I'm trying to hide this so we can actually see it on screen. The whole interesting point about that. So this is, I'm going to be clear about this because this is the problem that people get. So we could have taken one gesture detector, right? Let me start a new tab here just briefly. Actually, I'll copy it and just show you. So what we could be doing here is taking a gesture detector, wrapping an image, right?
Then doing the math, like I was going to suggest.
Yeah, and but the
which is
problem
pretty much what Ezra is suggesting, I believe.
right. But the problem that you've got with that is now you're doing what effectively is to do with layout and rendering inside your build stage. You know what I mean? Right. The whole idea of the widgets is to push that down to the next level, and then that's done for you on your behalf, right? So do it, but do it in the right place. Because if you do this, then what you could do is put a key on this, right? Whatever the key is, blah, right? And then have your on tap effectively take what is it? This is like event, whatever, I can't remember what the type is, right? And then you can say final render box
Like tap
is
event or something.
blah dot was it current context dot find render object. I think it's a function as render box, whatever, right? And then you can then say, okay, if event dot local position dot dx less than render box dot size dot dx divided by 2 or whatever, right? Multiply. You know, print left, right? I mean,
It's just do it all with Boxy. Boxy solves all problems.
Well, and I was going to say, I would probably think of doing it this way, but I like Scott's way better.
right. So this is the way I'd say not to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think that's what my instincts would be to do something like this.
I mean, as soon as you start, so I saw something. Someone was doing. What were they doing the other day? If someone was helping out, and they were saying they were trying to move some widgets on the screen, and it was like trying to work out. They're calculating where the widget would be based on like working out the size of their like spacing and stuff, and saying, "Oh, multiple of 16 plus this plus that," and it's like, and it becomes like this. But you're now working against the layout system, right? Like what you're better off doing is saying fractionally position yourself based on where you want to be, based on where you're trying to come from, or whatever the animations is that he was trying to do at the time, right? And it's like it's about that. It's about doing things in the right place, right? Like you should not be like you can do all this kind of sort of pixel calculations and everything else, but should be done in your render objects, right?
It's like doing a chessboard not as a grid view. Because doing it as a grid view simplifies a lot of things, because you get individual gesture detectors for the individual widgets and all sorts of great stuff like that.
So there's a thing you could do, like let's say you want to paint a chessboard, you could do like a stack and then do some loops in there, and then work out the size of the outside with like a layout builder, the constraint coming in, and say, divide the width by 8, and then I'm going to multiply. That's my cell size, and then I'm going to make the containers with size boxes or whatever. This, it's like that's what layout's for, right? Now you're doing this is the thing. Now you're doing layout during build, right?
In any layout like that is guaranteed to be off by 1 the first time.
I want that for my license plate.
Wait
off by 1.
Wait until you look at. So they've added a new feature. Well, I say it's new. It's probably a couple of years now, but on borders you can now set the stroke alignment. So previously the stroke on borders would be centered, right? So if you had if you had 2 pixel border, you might get jitter because it might sit one pixel on this actual line and 1 pixel below, Now, if you get 3, it would be 1 pixel above, 1 pixel where the line should be, the border should be, and then 1 pixel below, if that makes sense, like on a horizontal line, right? But then you now do stroke alignment, so you can actually align it on the outside or on the inside, as well as centered on the border, which solves all those off by 1 issues you get with borders and pixels and everything else, like really annoying things where you can't get things, but it's one of those things that you just don't think of until you actually need it, and then you're like, where's the feature? It's called stroke align.
All right.
It's now on there.
It is the top of the hour. So for one thing, I've gotten 2 answers in. Well, I guess the one wasn't exactly an answer while we were talking about a Trojan, but fortunately I got a laugh from the person who asked the question too.
Cool.
And Simon said to do it Scott's way. So we're going to mark that down on the calendar as a day in history.
Yes. We'll celebrate this
and before
annually.
I go, and actually Danielle, I believe
That was good.
She
has gestures turned on.
I do need to get going, but I want to make an announcement. Next week, we have David DeRimmer, CEO of Very Good Ventures.
Ooh.
So he's going to be on the program next week. He and I have already talked about it. And he has also said that he can make some time for some of VGV's lead coders to come on too. So maybe get some of their senior people.
He's been a great friend of the Flutteristas too. So I love him. Yeah. He's great. When I was trying to hire someone a couple years ago, I had 2 people that I was going to hire that ended up going to work for him. So when I saw him in Berlin, not this past FlutterCon, but the first one, I definitely made a point of getting a picture of me with him to send to my boss, just to have fun.
Yeah.
But
I will. Yeah, he's a great guy.
By the way, actually, no, I take back. I will be here next week. I won't be here the week after. So I will be here next week. So
we'll see you then.
Should we have Ezra pop on? We see her in the chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ezra, get in here.
Yep.
Yeah. Where are you, Ezra? Come join us.
Actually, yeah, I missed the stream where they were talking about the book, didn't I? Of course I did.
Yeah.
They can do it again. Just do a repeat, just for me.
Of course.
All right. But hey, everybody who's watching the recorded, okay, everybody who's watching on demand, try to come to the live at noon Eastern U.S. time next Wednesday. What time is that in London, Simon?
What? Sorry.
What time?
It's 9 a.m. Google time.
5 p.m.
Okay, so it's 5 p.m. in London.
6 p.m. Central.
Yep. So CET is going to be 6 p.m.
Yeah,
I know you normally watch the recorded, but come live for David.
I was going to say for 3 out of 4 of the people on stage here, Simon, Central doesn't mean CET.
Central European. That's what I said.
Because we also have a Central.
So that's true. Because when I said CET, I meant Central European time.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, we said that. Yeah. So.
And I was on
lunar time.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, okay.
I have to go to. So it's great to see everybody.
Okay. Everybody's bailing. Ezra, hurry up and join us.
Yes, Ezra, sign in now.
Yeah, we need you.
Yes.
We need you.
I will shoot you a link before I leave. Check Slack.
Oh, she's in the
on mobile. This is on mobile.
Oh, okay.
Ciao. Oh.
Anyway, ciao,
Too
Scott.
bad.
Oh.
So
never be on mobile.
I would say I did want to just add that. Yeah.
I'm going to stay for the question.
You should also add this hit test behavior opaque to the because there's no content within these, so just to make sure it hit tests correctly. But yeah, that's that point. Right,
cool.
Next question.
Done with that one. Next with that one, I think that's this. I have a carousel of cards, and here's one of these 1 out of 2 questions, which I always get scared by. I have a carousel of cards. One card has a badge at the top, a title. I want another card in the same carousel with no badge to have the same spacing above, so the titles look aligned. And where's the other half? That's this. I can't use a sized box with the same spacing because the user can increase the font size on the device, causing an overflow. How do you go about doing this? You need to emit space rays into their eyes if they make the font overflow.
Well, I'm saying specifically for this question too, just because this is something that we have designers that give us, like, we want the cards to be this dimension, this size, and that doesn't not take the ability to deal with font stuff at that point. So not being able to use a sized box and do what you want to do isn't necessarily there. You can't really necessarily use a constrained box because now you've got uneven sizes. So
sorry, what did I miss here? Can't use size box, the same spacing, because the user can increase the font size on the device, causing an overflow. How do you go about doing this? Sorry, was this part 2 of, so what was part 1 that I have? Carousel.
Part 1 was the carousel.
Right, he's got a badge on top of it, and the badge is obviously text. And so if they change the size of that text, it's throwing things off for him, alignment wise.
Hang on. One card has a badge at the top above the title. I want another card in the same carousel with no badge to have the same spacing.
Yeah.
Does that a blank text widget? There you go.
If you got alignment,
like you don't have to you're just have a blank badge there with that set with the opacities of transparent to everything around it. Right now, it's going to take up the same space. I mean, honestly, it's that same thing. You can do. There's ways of doing this where you're going, okay. I actually had this the other. Actually, it's a problem I wanted to solve. Maybe we could do this as live coding. This actually might be a good live coding thing to do. It's something I want to do. So I had a problem where I had it's a very similar problem. Okay, so I had tabs along the bottom of navigation tabs along the bottom of the screen, and they had icons and text on them. And I wanted the text, as more tabs were being added, there was less room for the text to be displayed, right? But I didn't want the text to get clipped, which is what was happening. But I also don't want the text to wrap, because that doesn't work in the vertical space. And what I actually wanted to do is have the text get smaller, effectively, right? Now, the problem is you don't just want one to get smaller. You want them to equally, all of them, get smaller to the same degree, which is an interesting proposition, interesting thing to do. And I think that's a very similar thing here, where you want the height of the maximum tag or whatever at the top to be the height that your spacing is. So hopefully in your design, you can just limit it to being like one tag or one line of tags that scroll, and you've got a fixed vertical space that you can say, I'm going to reserve that space without a size box by using the actual tag widget, so it renders the same, right? If you're talking about trying to reserve text spacing, it's always a capital M that you use. So there's a unit of measurement on web called EMS, EM units, which is actually a capital M. It's the size and width of capital M. That's how it gets its sizing. And there's other units which are about this. It's about typesetting, right? Because M is in Latin, that alphabet is considered the widest and tallest character, capital character in the alphabet. I mean, take that what you will, but at least you can. There's some sort of measurement there that you can work on, right? But once you've got line height, once you've got one line in there with any one letter, that will encompass the ascent and descent of the font, so you'll be the same on both, so you don't have to worry about it being baseline aligned. Anyway, yeah, you just put a transparent widget there. Done. There you go.
We've hit the top of the hour plus some, and we still have 9 questions in the queue. So I'm going to call for a cutoff in about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, everyone.
5 minutes. 5-minute warning, everybody. The next question is actually mine, I think, mostly. So, Riverpod, does it make sense to?
Do you need to go? Do you need to go, Danielle?
I'm leaving. Danielle.
All right.
Thanks,
we'll
everybody.
See you soon. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
And then there were 2, right? Does it make sense to watch the app user stream in the local DB for changes, or should I only update state of app user and not watch app user in the local DB? So I think there's a couple of things here. I want to make sure that we separate them out. There's always the sense of whatever user you're authenticated as. And I always like to be reliably from the source for that. Like Firebase provides a stream. Other databases provide some sort of stream for that. That's where you should get your, this is the user from, not from any calculation you're making about who you think the user is based on whether you got a OK login or whatever. There should always be that stream available for you. The other thing is, it sounds like you're also looking at data about the user, in which case you can either use a local cache optimized system where you're updating a local value and then at the same time writing that to the back end and hoping that works, or you can use a remote database as authority, as source of truth, in which case you don't ever watch anything locally. You simply first send it to the database. The database will then inform you that something's been changed, and then you operate based on that. You can use either of those strategies. It depends on whether there's other people updating data. If there's other people updating data, you almost always have to go to remote databases source of truth. You can't use local caching because you don't know if the cache might be invalid.
I will say, let's say, forget remote for a second now, this equation, right? Okay. From my perspective, you always want a single source of truth, right? You want somewhere where you go, this is fact, right? Mm-hmm. You don't just treat everything as being varied and anything can happen, because then you don't know the state of it. You need to have an understanding in your mind that this is fact. So what you might have is a user repository or user provider, whatever you call it, in the back end of your app that provides your user state, that has your local state of the user. If there's a user there, then they're logged in, or you have some sort of logged in state, maybe an authentication state. Now that's in memory. That I would treat as my source of truth, right? That's known fact. Now, off the back of that, whenever that changes, I would then have that connected up to a database and to persist information, because that is asynchronous. I do not want the actions of my application to always wait on the database, because the database can take time. It's using disk. It's using other things. You may want to then take that what you put on disk and cache it to the network. And there's all sorts of other weird and funky things you can do. So in memory right now should be fact, right? So I would always treat that as your point of source of truth. And then off the back of that, you can then change your database. So you're saying, should you watch the stream in the local database? No, I wouldn't do that. I would have the local database be informed from the stream within your app. It's the reverse. And this way you're guaranteeing that the database is synchronizing and persisting the data as the application state changes, right? Yeah, I need to do that. And then obviously, like, the point at which you update the database should also be the point at which the data is, for example, as you said here, you said, or should I update state of the app user and don't watch the app user in local database? Yeah, so I guess the second half is what I would loosely consider, right? The point is, you're not watching the database, you're watching the normal app state, and then that's pushing to the database. So when the app starts up, you're then loading that state from the database into your app state. Now, so at that point becomes the source of truth at that point, right? And this is why you want to do your loading of your app before you can even know that you've got a user or they're logged in. You have to have that loaded into memory, right? So you have to have a point in which your application is loading or gets its state from disk. Yeah. I hope that helps. Yeah.
I think we covered most of the possibilities. If we didn't ask a follow-up question, but I think we pretty much covered all the scenarios that you might want to consider as you're doing that. But part of it is just trying it out, working it a bit, showing it off to other people and seeing if they agree with how you've done it. You know, the usual code review sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Are there any test automation tools for Flutter so we can test out the flows?
Yeah, Flutter has that built in.
That's Flutter test, right? And
yeah, there's normal Flutter test package, right? You can just do widget tests. So there's a whole section on the Flutter website around widget testing. There's a great couple of, depending on what flows you're trying to do. If your flows interact with native components, then you need to run it on the device. That's called a integration test, and that you need to run the integration test suite. That's another bit on top. But there's a great package called Patrol, made by Lean Code. And that will allow you to not just run the buttons and tests within the app, but also call things like press native buttons within, let's say, Google Sign In, for example. You do Google Sign In, you can then select the first user in the list, you can then come back to the app and you can do that. Whereas the normal Flutter tests are just Flutter, not native platform stuff. So.
Right.
But another one you probably want to use if you are going to be writing good tests is Mocktail. There's another good one, which lets you create mock objects that you can pass in and out of your tests to validate various inputs, produce various outputs, and so on.
And this is preferred to the old package Makito, which is the only thing that existed for a while and didn't really survive well past the null safety.
Yeah, no, it was not null safe. It could not handle null safety. So did Mocktail require reflection as well? I can't remember.
No, Mocktail straight up. So it's really nice. No build.
So Mocktail Mocktail's really nice. I like the way that they do it. They use the no such method invocation system to essentially implement every interface from a implementation. So the mock object, I actually showed this on the stream before. You can just create a class which implements any interface and then have a no such method function, and that will be called on every invocation of that interface. So if you want, that's essentially how the mocking works. And then if you registered a when condition, it knows, oh, you tried to call that function, which is this invocation, matches it up to its table of invocations, and then returns the result, or runs the function, returns the result. That's it.
Cool. We can even demo that in a live demo if you wanted to, but let's just do this. This is a two-parter. In a multi-level architecture, such as data, domain, presentation. So somebody's been reading these buzzword blog articles. In which level do I need to add the try and catch to handle errors? Use what works. My goodness, people are all like buzzwordy all the time. And also, he wants to know, like, okay, the layers, data, domain, presentation. Obviously, read those articles that have those keywords.
At all the levels. At all levels.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make these folders in every single app, or it's not a real app, right? Isn't that right? You've got to have core, you've got to have presentation, otherwise it's not an app, right? It's not a. No, I tell you, I only make a folder when I've got two things that need to be together. I did not put single items in a folder. Every time I see that with my clients, I go, ew, why did you make a folder from that? Or empty folders. They do empty folders in .git save me or whatever it is. So it makes sure
git keep. Yeah.
Empty directory. Oh man, people. Okay. Can you tell I've been down this road way too many times. Anyway, so the rest of the question is, in this case, I'm using either, so that's probably the functional programming thing. Should I return on the data source level or only on the domain level? Whatever works is part of it, but I would suggest, I've seen one rule that I think actually makes sense. Don't throw out of your level. So if you have an exception happening and you know the exception is likely to happen, put a try catch at that level and turn it into data before handing it to the next level. That's really the only thing they say is don't let exceptions cross boundaries. And I think that's a reasonable restriction.
I'm not. I know. I can see. I like that. I really like that idea. By the way, I really like that idea. It works with either in the case we're using the either type. But I'm just thinking to myself, this is. It's all about exceptions can happen anywhere for conditions that you don't capture. Whatever you do, don't just do try catch every exception. Don't do that. That's bad. Don't do this. What you can do though is turn again, if you know an exceptional condition can occur, and you have a nice way out of it, like performing a default action or returning a default value or whatever you want to do, then do that, right? Like you're try catching at that point. The thing is, as I said, you can have exceptions occur at any level. So you're going to have your uncaught exception handler, hopefully at the top level of your app, which is going to be logging these to your error service like Sentry or whatever, right? Where you can capture these things. I think there's a few different ways of handling this. There's, for example, let's say you're doing service, you've got a service that does APIs, right? That calls your APIs for your backend of your app. It's going to be, let's say, doing RESTful API calls, and you might get network exceptions. You might get DNS resolver not found or socket exception or something else. Right. You capture them at that level, and you can return back API exception, right? And have this is an exception occurred during that calling the API. And then at the layer below that, you can then have at your domain layer, you can then say, oh, if there was an API exception occurred during calling the API, then I should do X, Y, Z, right? So you can actually, handle these things properly. Now that's what I like to do there, is transforming the exceptions. So what is very similar to the either case, right? You can still use exceptions, but instead of returning data, you can still throw, but what you're doing is you're throwing a known value. So you can be guaranteed that if an exception is being thrown, it has to be an API exception from the API service, right? If it's not that, then that's a situation that never have occurred, which you want to be thrown, which you want to be like. Too often, people with error in apps specifically with error capturing is they just either capture all errors and ignore them, very bad thing to do, or they just decide to capture errors that they shouldn't be capturing, right? So you should allow your app to crash. I know it sounds weird, but you want to know when exceptions occur so you can work out why it happened, because you weren't expecting it to happen. It is exceptional, right? It is an exception, and therefore you want to go fix it, right? So you need to have logs, you need to have reports that these things occurred. So the point is, you let your app crash, you fix all the issues, you let it crash some more, you fix the issues until you refine your app so that it no longer crashes because you fixed all the exceptional situations, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually been thinking about this pretty intensely over the last week, because I saw a question somewhere about a catch print error occurred in return. And it's like, you threw away the error that happened. You threw away the stack. I'm going to make a big deal about this in my video I'm about to do. I want to do sort of a basics about exceptions, best practices about exceptions. That'll probably be the first shorter video, and then a little bit longer things like hierarchies of exceptions that can be on a sealed class so you can switch on them with exhaustiveness, that kind of stuff. That would be cool too. So look for a couple of videos coming out of my channel sometime in the next week or two. I'm trying to get sort of the easiest end in first, trying to figure out what the basic flow used to look like. I posted my Dart and Flutter channel in the chat if you want to go find the channel and subscribe to it, so that when it comes out, you'll be first to be notified. So soon. Basic exceptions, and then advanced exceptions. Yes.
On that point, there's two things that people don't do that they should be doing, and that is, whenever you have an async method, they should always await. Don't return a feature from an async method. Await it, because what will happen is you'll get an asynchronous gap pop up inside your stack trace, and what this means is it somehow got from this point to this point, and I have no idea how it got there, because it went back into the event loop and didn't. Because you returned a future basically, whereas if you keep awaiting those entries, now when it crashes further down in that asynchronous chain, it's going to know the stack that got it there, and you're going to know how your app actually got to that point where it crashed. So very important. If you have an asynchronous function, always await the futures in it, and there is actually lint checks for those things. Don't just return a future. Too many times I see this, and it's like you're just going to cause yourself headaches. The other one is that there is a great package called stack_trace. This should be used in practically every app at some point, I'm sure. But and here it allows you to parse, inspect, and manipulate stack traces. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is it does some support for interest, but this is the bit that I really care about: stack chains. So this allows you to zone capture and do chaining of stacks, which is quite important as well. And there's an example of an asynchronous gap. Actually allows you to chain them together as well. So that's really helpful to kind of solve those kind of problems where you have those gaps. There is what I don't think we do. What I wish we had in Dart was a generic sort of the exception type had like a cause. Like the error that caused the thing, so you can then start, like this does it here, but like you have to implement it, right? Like I feel like it'd be really nice if you could have chain stacks. Really, it's just something that's not native in the way it works. You have to do it yourself. So if you, for example, want a to throw an exception based from another exception that occurred, then you need to put the original error and stack trace in that exception so that you can then and have its print method output essentially, so that you can chain things together.
Yeah, I'm looking for that class method, the static method that does it's either error dot rethrow with stack or whatever. There's a way to take an existing stack and just glue it onto so that you can continue to rethrow it. That's in my notes somewhere.
It's just rethrow. The rethrow. If you're in a
But building your own error and having it contain components of the original error plus the old stack trace.
Yeah, that's what this chain does. That's what from a stack trace. That this is one or more stack traces collectively represent the path from main through nested function calls. This is.
But it's just 2 lines of code in the built-in stuff too, though. Error dot something, I think.
Oh, there's error dot throw with no. You can throw with your own stack. You can do error dot throw. Hang on, I'm gonna bring it up.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking for. Error throw, error something. Andrea did a piece on it based on me telling him about it, and it was kind of nice. I said, "Well,
you can do this. This is the one you're talking about. Error dot throw with stack trace."
Right, and so you can give it both the original error and
no. This is just a way that you can read. So if you have an error and a stack trace, you can then say essentially this is what rethrow does, but you can do it in code, which is really helpful because if you're in the middle of doing something like you want to do other things around, instead of rethrow, which has a very specific condition, this allows you to essentially throw any error that occurred at any place. It could be abused, so be careful with it. But I don't know I don't know the one you're.
I think that's the one. I think that's the one I was interested in. Because you create your own error that contains the original error and throw that with this, and then then it still gets continued.
Yeah, but it's up to you to join the two things together. There's not like
that's the best. That's
I also mentioned I want to mention I have mentioned this before on the stream, but we'll mention it now. Error and exception are not the same, right?
Another point.
Let's just get this clear. So an error is a condition that you cannot. The idea of an error, the error class, and what an error is in Dart is an exception that code that you cannot recover from, right? This is it was programmed incorrectly. Like you list out of bounds exception. You've gone out of bounds. This isn't something that the app can necessarily. You should have got out of bounds in the first place, right? Like when accessing an array or something, right? Like this has been programmed incorrectly, not that it ran incorrectly at runtime. So the difference is that an error is it was code. It's very subtle, right? I don't know if I can explain this very well. But yeah, a program failure. Actually, it says here, an error object represents a program failure that the programmer should have avoided. There you go. That's literally what it says in the documentation. Whereas an exception is an exceptional situation has occurred, but you can still recover from this. You can still do what you need to do to get out of this failure condition, right? And it says here, I give a reading from the library here, reading from the Dart SDK. An exception is intended to convey information to the user about a failure so that the error, this is the user of the SDK, that's the developer, right? So that the error can be addressed programmatically. It is intended to be caught and should contain useful data fields. So there you go.
Yep.
For failures that are not intended to be caught, use error or its subclasses.
So please see my upcoming videos, multiple, plural, I'm pretty sure. Because I think I want to do a basic one and just get it out the door, and then I spend some more time thinking about the advanced solutions and gather more time in advanced solutions. So yeah, I got almost nothing else to do. Might as well get these done. It's about time to do another video. Definitely.
So someone just said, can we say assert is build time error? Well, it doesn't happen during build time, right? Compile. What you consider build time is compile time, right? Like you essentially have runtime and compile time, right? So, i.e., you got an error during compilation or building of the app versus you got an error during the runtime of the app. Yeah. I'd say an assert
error.
Assert is a runtime error, right? Because it's meant to convey something that should never have happened, but asserts only exist debug builds, right?
Right.
They don't exist during debugging, so that you can. That's another thing that people don't put in more often, right? Like when you know there's a value that you should not, it should be like, let's say you receive an integer into a function, and you go, I know it needs to be between 1 and 100. Put an assert on there that ensures that. And then if at any point during your building of you're running your app and debugging, you're building it, and that's not the case, you know ahead of time that there's a failure in the state of the application, and not at some time like 10 pages away or 10 stacks away, you realize you should never have got to this position where it says 200 here, and that's, and you would have known at the exact point where it set that value, right? So just,
And there, I think you were about to make this point, but asserts have zero runtime cost, because once you compile it for production, those all just go away.
It's also one of the reasons, it's one of the little tricks that's used inside the Flutter SDK to include debug print statements and other such fun things inside the Flutter SDK for you as the developer to see. They put them inside assert so that you can only see them during your debugging. It's also one of the reasons why your app is slower when debugging, because it's doing a lot more behind the scenes. But it should be, so that you can know ahead of time, oh, you try to set state during build, you should not do this, right? And that's an assert. That isn't in runtime.
Bad program. Yes, right. Okay, let's move on here. This, I'm not sure how to answer this, but I'll just read it and I'll let you try to take a whack at it. As a Flutter developer, do I need to put stress on system designs? What the heck would that mean?
It's not as a Flutter developer. As you're basically saying, as a developer, should I stress my system, as in like your into application as a system as a whole? Because system means a lot of things, right? System is things working together, right? So maybe you can explain a bit more, Prince, as to how, like, what you mean, right? But if you're doing so here's the thing: if you're building any application, you tend to release it, right? You can build your app, you test it as a single developer, you release the app, and then you get 1,000 people download it, and it all crashes to hell, and it all goes bad. And you go, why didn't I test it with 1,000 people? Well, then now you know that you should probably test your app with load testing your system, and mock some of these things up during its test cases, so you can test these things, right? I mean, to be honest, it's about how the app is built, right? Like, and how your system is designed. And hopefully if you're designing your system correctly, hopefully if you're testing it out correctly, you're not going to get into a situation where you need to stress test or load test your system as a whole. But it comes to the second point here, is that you can't predict these things, and you can't predict what happens. A lot of the time it's very difficult to see what happens at scale. Scale is difficult, more difficult than people realize. And that's mainly around the fact is as things behave differently when they're happening in volume, right? And they're happening very quickly. Like imagine you get like throughput on your system of, let's say you're Google and you're doing push notifications. You get a million API requests every hour, probably every minute, or something like that, right? For push notifications, and only 1 or 10 are invalid requests that are coming into your system. Now, if an invalid request came into your system and it reset your front end in some manner, and you had to restart it and had to reload a thing and rebuild a queue or something else, something silly, right? What you've just effectively done is that you would never have seen that percentage. That's a 0.001%. Sounds about right. It might be less than that, actually. We said 1 in 10. Well, anyway, 0.00001% like variance that would have crashed your system out. And you may not have seen that bug unless you saw that. So it's not until you got to that scale that you actually see that issue. And the only way you can test these things is to load test them up front, and that is by producing benchmarks and scripts that actually execute your code in multiple cores, multiple threads, many millions of times to see if there's any failure condition that can occur. Even then, it's not until it's running that you can actually see these things are how they're behaving.
It's also
So,
not obvious until after you've done multiple systems, and even then it might not be obvious where the choke points or
yeah,
bottlenecks are in your system. And
get it from
that
experience, man.
when you're only running with 10 units worth of work, it might just go "Poosh," and it takes exactly 10.01 times what you expected it to take. That's fine. But then you go to 1,000,000 and it takes 2,000,000,
Yeah,
because some choke point that's being hit by having that increased number that you wouldn't have seen otherwise or predicted otherwise. And the only way again to do this is to, heavy load test and see how it recovers from that and make that all happen. So train of thought said, I think they meant as a concept how important it is. Maybe. Yeah, it's
well, we talked
important.
about that. So
Yeah, I think we covered it. All right.
For most little apps and things you start, it's not really a problem, right? Like you're gonna find the bugs and you're gonna fix the bugs as you go. I don't think you need to like worry about bajillions of users scaling your product and hitting that many. I think there's an aspect. Of what most programmers, when they build something, they think of the happy path. They think of what happens next after something succeeds. And too often than not, as you grow as a developer and as you do lots more projects, you realize the happy path is just comes to you, right? That's not the concern. The concern is, well, all the places where this can go wrong, and well, all the failure conditions and all the unhappy paths are. And that's the point you need to think. So as a developer, you need to be thinking about what can happen if the inputs are wrong. What is the expected outcomes, right? Whatever the function or feature or whatever you're doing is. And one big input to a lot of things, which is very much hidden, is time. The time domain is something that you have to learn about when writing software. Things happen not necessarily in sequence the way you expect, right? Especially when you start dealing with asynchronous code. So you need to think about when one thing completes, or wait for one thing before you start doing another thing. And this is where futures come in and start thinking about concurrency and how this all works, and having fun with race conditions, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I won't go there. Right, we can talk for hours. Let's carry on. I mean, we've stopped questions, didn't we? Yeah, let me tell you.
Yeah, how do you turn that off? I was about to do it myself, but I couldn't figure out how. Doesn't matter. Anyway, we're going to do the training at some point here. All right. Can I use methods inside a column? Well, yeah. I mean, pretty much everything you're doing is methods, right? One way or the other. I think it's, and somebody in the chat, where was the chat response to this, which is the self-executing closure. That's one way to just get a random expression.
Yeah. Can I use methods inside a column?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can execute a function inside a column. I mean,
yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
Why is it not widget?
Yeah, it'll have to ultimately result in a widget, or it won't be part of a column. So
no, exactly. So like you've got a method that returns back a widget that takes parameters.
Yep.
Well, now you just made a widget, because a widget takes parameters and its build method returns a widget, right? Like, yeah. This is like too much that whole discussion around what's better, functions that return widgets or actual widgets that return widgets.
What's better, Dart or Flutter? Yes, right. What is the future of Go Router? First off, neither of us work for Google, so we're not privy to inside information. Mostly, right? Maintenance mode now? No. Let's see. I bet it's had a breaking change release in the last 20 minutes. Hold on, let me go look.
Have a look.
It's had about what 10 breaking changes in the last year. I mean, it's obviously work has not stopped on it. Let's see here, versions. 43 hours ago. Oh, it wasn't a breaking change. Okay, so work continues on it always. It is eternal. It is eternally getting work done. And it's in version 14 now, and it was version 10 only 17 months ago. So that's 4 breaking changes in 17 months. So I'm only kind of joking that it keeps getting updated all the time. So the future
I know
is
what.
there will be breaking changes. There will be breaking changes in GoRouter sometime soon. We just don't know when.
I mean, it's not about the breaking changes, but it'll be maintained. I don't know why you think it should go into maintenance mode. I mean, there's always improvements to these things. The same goes for like AutoRoute or one of these other packages, right? So
Yeah, right. So I like GoRouter because it does actually come from Mountain View, so it's got at least a little bit of authority to it. But there are definitely some places where the GoRouter documentation sucks, and it's difficult to work my way through stuff sometimes. There are classes that for some reason are in the source code in such a way that they never end up in the documentation, even though I have to refer to them all the time. So I have the source code to GoRouter open whenever I'm actually coding with GoRouter. It's the only way I can find some stuff out.
there's definitely some very obtuse things that happen with inside GoRouter, or at least when working with it. It's not. But then what software's perfect? Like it's complex. It deals with complex issues. So I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we said this before. Don't like it, build your own. Use another. It doesn't have to be, the one thing that does what you want it to do. So
yeah. All right, final question. Then we can get on to coding. Actually, I guess. Can we make AR apps in Flutter? I don't know. Can we? I mean, there's like TensorFlow AR stuff, right?
Well, there's ARKit and AR core libraries packages out there. You can just use those.
Yeah.
There you go. Problem solved.
Yeah, that was easy. Yeah. That takes us to the end here. So
should we do some live coding for the remainder?
What did we come up with?
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this little font one, which might be kind of an interesting one.
The one with the carousel, that one?
The carousel. Yeah, he was talking about a carousel with cards, like how you do that kind of thing. What was the other note I made? Oh, it was talking about Mocktail as well.
A Mocktail.
Maybe explain that a little bit.
Cool.
I actually might already have.
Oh, and for people on the stream wondering, yes, the sun. I'm in a underground bunker, as I like to call it. It's basically a daylight. They call it daylight basement because it has one window that's 1 foot by 3 foot, which is what, a third of a meter by a meter for you guys that aren't Americans. And that's the entire outside world that I have. So I want it in front of me because that's the only way I'm going to know that I'm not just in a cave somehow. But it also lines up to the south, which means sometimes during the morning, the sun shines directly on my face from there. And I don't want to put curtains up because then it'll be like a dark room in here, like just only my artificial light. So I like that I got natural light during the day.
Doing your best hacker impression.
Yeah, right. So this
coding in the dark.
Anyway,
just the light from your computer screen. That's how we all do it, right?
I've done that enough to ruin my eyes already. I really don't want to do much more of that. There is an interesting question here. We did sort of answer this anyway. So widget. As long as you ultimately are returning widgets, I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I think it's.
Is it suboptimal?
Yeah,
so in short, it is suboptimal. Right. Okay. That's the short answer. The point really is around the fact that the when you call that build method, that top level build, when that gets rebuilt, it has to rebuild everything, right? Because you're calling all these functions that call the constructors. If you have a widget there, it's just going to build the outside widget and go, oh, there's no changes. Did update widget gets called. Okay, fine. And now you haven't had to build the entire subtree of widgets for that section of your UI, right? So you get to effectively let the platform cache where it needs to the UI and not build unnecessarily. So if you've just got one massive, it's the same. If you have functions that are being called from your build method, that's the same as having one big build method, which means that every time that build method gets called, it has to call all the constructors. What's the point?
Yep.
Right. So, you know,
don't do that.
And
also, I do feel I have sympathy for this person for asking the same question 2 weeks in a row. It's more than a week. I'm afraid this question couldn't come early. Can you take it? How do I convert a uint8 list into a blob in the web package? What's the blob? Is blob a blob URL? Data URL?
No, blob is a web construct, which basically is binary blob. Basically, it's the same as a uint8 list.
There's no
I don't think there is anything special you have to do, to be honest. But let's have a quick look. It's a JS object, which apparently takes a JS array of blob part. And what is a blob part when it's at home? Is a JS any. So basically, this is saying that you need to take, you need to convert your uint8 list to a JavaScript array, and then you just call the blob constructor around that, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there you go.
You waited a week for that answer of just do like the docs say.
So actually, if I grab, let me see if I can add something in here. Hang on, bear with, and then I'll share briefly. Let's see if I can do this briefly. Give me 1 second. Yeah, okay. Let's go. Go. There we go. We're here. We're in. We're in like Flynn.
Yay.
Where is comments? We have comments. Okay. So yeah, you're talking about blob, right? Let's see if I can actually sort of pull in from web. I think I have. Oh, maybe. I think web pulls in the JavaScript stuff, doesn't it? So you should be able to have like final data, uint8 list, whatever. 1 byte. It's gonna be 1 byte. Data 0 equals 1, whatever. So there is JS. Will that make a JS any?
Yesify.
Yeah, so it wants a JS array of blob. So that's the real issue here, right? That you're not. It will be a JS array of blob part though, because this is an array of byte, which actually turns into that. So you could probably get away with doing see, blob part is just a. We could try this. See, blob part is just a JS any, so it's a JavaScript array of any. So I need to run this in browser. Oh, this is annoying. Can I do this easily? I don't know. How about this? How about this? Someone can try this, and then we can see. How's that?
There you go. Just run it in the run it in Dartpad.
Oh, that might actually, would that work?
Of course it would, because you're running, you're in
Well, that's
web
what I was
mode.
thinking. I wonder if that will actually work, but we could try it. I mean, what the hell? Why not? Run. Wow, it crashed. Right. Native UNA list type is not a type of JS array object, but that's interesting in itself.
So that's valid debugging
JSify,
information. Yes.
So JSify is actually making a native UNA list. Can you get a native? Is that like, it's not browser construct, is it? That's not.
Can't believe I came up with Dartpad as an idea, but obviously I'm more awake than I thought I was.
I suppose you could say to JS box. To JS. That's the one I was thinking of. Why was that not give me as an option when I was typing it in down here? Now you're saying cast is not needed, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Hang on a minute. From JSU in array to JS array in cast.
You don't need the as.
He just doesn't want to. It doesn't want to accept it. So a JS UNA list, JS typed array. I wonder if you can then convert that. You can Dartify it. I don't think the boxed approach is going to work, but yeah, let's try it. Why the hell not? Let's try it. No. Text box a non-Dart object. Well, that's interesting. I don't know if this is going to work. No. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Basically, it's saying that you need to convert this back to a list, and then convert that list. So if we say data, what was it? List of data to JS. Let's just see what does this come out with. I wonder if it will. You say me you can't take a list and make it an array. No. Don't know how you make a JS array.
It's trivial. It's obvious, right?
No. Attempt to box a non-Dart object. Interesting. Well, I don't think that's going to work either way, but we can just try. I guess you could do. Oh, object blob. That worked. Oh, there you go.
Cool.
Does that mean I could just take data? Hang on, let me just check something. Did I not try this in the first place? No. There you go. So there you go. That's how you do it. You do a list of, and then ignore the fact that it's complaining. What was it actually complaining about? Oh, I've got too much crap in here. List. Casting from list of int to JS list of any. Cast Dart value to JS interrupt may not be platform consistent. Try using the conversion methods from Dart.js interrupt to convert, which is what I was doing. Which is this method here, which is complaining about you can't do this. I don't think there's a list. UNT list to JS UNT list. Yeah, I mean, like these are designed for this purpose. I mean, is there a particular reason you need a blob? I would have thought that the JS, these are just extension types. Are these types actually what we want? MDN. Oops, not there. Because once this is, yeah, data view here, look, typed array class. Where is, what's blob? Where is search? Array buffer. Oh, look, so it literally says an iterable object such as array or having an array buffer or typed arrays, data arrays, blob strings, or any such element to be put inside the blob. So you can just put typed array straight into a blob, which is essentially what we're doing here. This is essentially, but this should also work. But because what the output of this is a typed array. The cast is just here to satisfy Dart, right? To not give an error. But I think what we're seeing is that Dart is having a problem with that. Interesting. But anyway, the point here is a list does work. So there you go. That worked. So yeah, the line you're looking for is this. I'll pop it in the chat for you. You don't need to deploy that or script that up or whatever, right? Anyway, hopefully that gets to where you wanted to go to. Yeah. Anyway,
oh,
back to where we were doing. So that was one down.
Yeah.
Font size across multiple things. Yeah, let's do that. So it's kind of common practice to do something to when you get to a problem like this, it kind of it's not the problem is it's not platform consistent.
Well, web versus something else probably, but
correct.
All web
but then just do if web
way.
do this, otherwise do that. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, you're using the web import. It's. What do you mean, like as in platform, as in browser consistent? Because I doubt that would be a problem here. Not with the line that I pasted. See what you can. That's not right out. Right. Right. Where are we doing? So we want a. I just mean platform, not browser. Yeah, well, it wouldn't be, but that's because you're dealing with the web. The web only works on web, the web package. The whole idea of using blob is a web concept. If you want to do what blob does without the web, that's what UNT list is. So there you go. Right, what was I doing? Example out. That's an example. Yeah, you don't need to do an you don't have to do an import check. You can do is K is web, right?
Yep.
And K is web will know if it's being compiled for the web by testing this constant value.
The problem is you can't do import web unless you're on the web, right? So you have to have the special.
You can import I think you can import the web package still, remember rightly.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think. Do you know what? Whatever. Go. You can.
If so, go look up conditional imports because it still works.
Yeah, that's what he was suggesting, which works. I mean,
there's just 3 of them now instead of 2. So all those times I wrote just 2 or wrote just 1, knowing it's not the other one. Now,
yeah, I mean, I would just do Yeah, it's where there is there was a package called universal_HTML.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's been updated to use the web package yet, or if there's a new package called Universal Web or something. But the idea is it implemented the same classes, but with blank implementations. So stub implementations for native, and you had the web implementation on web. So you could import them still, but it wouldn't crash to compile your code, basically. But then the implementation actually wouldn't function. So it's still up to you to like if check it and do that. But it meant that it was a bit nicer to deal with than having to do conditional imports. But you know, adds quite a bit of size to the app by doing that. So you know, pick and choose your battle. Right, material with material app. Let's do that, and then we want a no debug banner, and then we want a home widget.
Home on the home.
Right, and that's going to be
home of the home.
Right now. All right, that should. Is that big enough for everyone? We want it bigger.
It's big enough for me, but I get high resolution here. So.
Well, if it's not, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to go with it.
I'll watch for that. So far, nobody complaining.
Could work out the font or something. Yeah. Probably. I don't know. You get to a point when it's like it won't even fit on the screen anymore. Let's see. Right. Okay, so we have a blank screen. Yay. What do we want next? We want
carousel, right?
Well, there's two ways of doing this, right? So I'm going to do my example, and then we can then lead that on. Well, we could do the carousel example on mine.
Sure.
Let's do both. So let's have an app bar.
Oh.
And just say, do we actually have the original questioner here? Who was it? Roberto? No, I can't remember who it was.
This is the testing one. How do you test a whatever?
No, this was the carousel.
Oh, okay. I'll try to find that. I think it was Roberto. It sounds familiar. Too bad you can't use find in the chat history here. You can only do vgrep. It's visual grep.
Get rid of that. All right. Body.
One Roberto question. No, there was the image one. I think Roberto's a red herring. I think it's not Roberto. It's somebody else. He's probably screaming in the chat here. Train of thought, maybe then. Why can't I search in this column?
Right, let's make a carousel widget. Let's put carousel widget.
Yep, search doesn't do any good because I can't focus it into that column. Okay, all the way back to the beginning and I didn't see it. That just means.
Well, don't worry about it. It's fine.
I'm blind. I got nothing else to do. Might as well keep looking.
Right. What is wrong with this picture?
Ah, got it. Jim Dave. No wonder he couldn't get it right.
Ah,
That was a two-parter. So
oh. So we're going to do.
I wonder how bad my hair is going to look after wearing a hat. Let's get it into the Einstein phase here. Everything all sticking her out the sides. The sun has finally moved beyond the position where it can interfere with me sitting here at my table.
Well, this is not what I expected. Okay. Right, so we've got a fractionally sized box with 50% height in the body, and then inside that we've got our little carousel widget that goes across. It'll show cards, whatever that might be. We can now say there's some interesting things we can now do with this. We can say like 80% width, show a little bit more of one next to it, right? And if we want this to like pin itself, like we've got with a page view. We can also use a page view here, right? But I'm specifically not doing that just to give something different, really. But what we can do in this case is, let's think. Yeah, let's add a let's make this stateful, and we can add a page controller, and the page controller needs to be disposed of. And then we'll pass that as our controller. So for those that don't know, page controller is a scroll controller, and this view needs a scroll controller. So you can use a page controller with the list view. Now, should, he says, the one time I want it. Oh yeah, no, there's another thing I need to do, actually. Don't lie.
You have to get the page size or something. Yeah. Okay.
Put the right physics on there. That'd be helpful. Right. It says, did that load again? Okay. There is actually snapping, but it's snapping to a full page size. And of course, with 80%, it's not full page size. That's actually more about the fact that the page controller needs to be told its viewport fraction to match so it can animate correctly. Really, I should be using that back here. There you go. Anyway, right. Enough of that. There we go. Now I can page through nicely. Yeah. So there's actually a list view. Oops. Anyway. Now I've got to restart. Okay. Anyway, the point is we have something. So what do we want to add to this? We wanted to add yeah, so what it said, some tags, right? Some title with some tags or something. So above the card, let's wrap this in a column. And then above the card, we could do a something like a, what do we call it? Chip label, tag, and next. It wants a widget. Of course it wants a widget. Right. Okay, well there you go. Well, that's not good, is it? That's not what we want. So now we want to just wrap wrap widget. Do that. That's slightly about, and then we want the bar to be kind of expanded. There we go. So now we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, our cards are getting smaller. What's going on? Let's do 30. More. That's no good. So let's add cross-axis alignment. No, that's what I want. Spacing. What's the spacing on there at least? That's a bit better. Run spacing. Because chips have their own default margins and things. Visual density. A bit better. Anyway, so okay, so this is obviously not desirable, right? The point here is sometimes you might have one that doesn't have any tags on it, right? Or title, or whatever it was, right? So what we can now do is we'll say if index is odd, then this is going to be every other one's going to have a tag, right? So the first one doesn't have a tag, the third one doesn't have tags, fourth one doesn't have tags, and this is not a desirable user experience, right? And we want to know, how do we fix this so that we can still have the text size and the font size get larger or smaller as the user changes their, let's say, font size or whatever, but equally not have to have a fixed size reserved at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we were suggesting during the stream was a couple of different options here. So one was you could have, in the cases where you don't want one, well, first of all, we want to limit the number of, we will not limit the number of tags maybe, but maybe how they're displayed, right? So in this case, I'm using a wrap because it was just a quick widget to show you this, right? But again, we could just use a row. Right, now we've got one. Now we're going to have one row, and okay, now we overflow. But now what we can do is wrap that row in a single child scroll view, right? And now we have, he says, this is cross-axis. We need whenever you do, I did my own mistake, but yeah, whenever you use a column, you pretty much always want cross-axis alignment stretch. Just FYI.
Yeah.
Right.
It should be the default. We've talked about
it. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And then, oh yeah, I need to set this to axis horizontal. Get that right. Okay. So now if I scroll across, we have one row and it gets larger. You can now scroll that one row of, I can get in there and touch it. Okay. Apparently I can't. There you go. You can scroll it, right? Okay. Let's have a test behavior does. Let's add some padding to that just to make it a bit nicer.
Mm.
So actually saying that there's padding on. It's always better to add padding to this view. Let's do symmetric, vertical. Something like that. And what this has done is now made the touch area bigger for the scroll because the padding is within the scroll field. We could do, let's just do all, make things simple. And now when you scroll to the end, there's at least a little padding at the end as well. But anyway, so you know, that's that. But then the ones that don't have, we want to reserve that space, right? So what you would do in this case is simply just do an else condition and then you could put a size box and put height, right? And this is what we're saying that you don't really want to do, right? So we're doing height 48. Okay, yeah, it's actually 54 or something, right? No, it's 56. There you go, right? Because what's going to happen now is if the font size, this has done what we want, right? Now the tags are reserved at the top, the space is reserved on the carousel at the top. But now what's going on here is that on the ones that if the person changed the font size, which we could actually, let's simulate that. Let's add a the bottom navigation bar and add a slider. And what we'll do in our slider is make the stateful. Scale. Look what it's down. Oh. All right. And what else do we want? We want to
You set a range on the slider,
right? Yeah, I need to set a range there, you're right. Yeah.
right? 5.0.
Well, I just wanted to show the stupidity, right? But you know that you should see what you can do now. Like it's ridiculous. Anyway,
One character on the entire screen.
Just want like an array. Numbered screen. Now we won't bother with that. Let's not go there. Right. And then what I want to do is add a listenable builder. Don't do this at home.
Is underscore scale automatically listenable? I didn't think it would be.
Don't do what I'm doing. That's what I'm just going to say.
Oh, this is just weird.
Shh, shh, shh.
I know where you're going, and it's scary at that end of the tunnel. Oh, no.
Hide your eyes, everyone.
If I was writing a best practices book, this would not go in.
I wouldn't put it there either.
I wouldn't even put it in my portfolio.
All right, so let's go to here, and if I drag the thing, look, yay! Yeah. And here you can see the problem, right? So let's say the font size has increased. The one next door is not the same size anymore, right?
Yeah.
That's again what we're trying to avoid when we
how do we do
what
that?
is essentially what we're trying to avoid, right? And change that. So we'll go out to like 10.
That is pretty cool. Bottom bar with the slider, though.
Sorry?
It is really cool, though. You just added a bottom bar with a slider to be able to have a control for experimentation. That was cool.
Well,
so that part, you can keep that part.
I'll leave it in there. I was going to say, I'm just going to put a little note in here.
This part's cool.
Do this.
Yeah, don't do
just for debugging.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so when it comes down to what we've got down here with the height, what we could essentially do is say, okay, well, it's a chip that's inside. There is actually a this notion of a prototype widget, which is very similar to this, right? But we want a chip down here, and I'm going to give it the same same thing. I'm going to say padding was all padding 8, and then around this we could wrap it with opacity 0. Right. There's also there's a couple of ones you can use, visibility as well. But anyway, so now what we've done, if you notice, is now the same size. And when I change the scale, that one next door is changing its height as well. Because what's happening is the letter M is here. It's here, but it's just hidden, right? So if I change this to 50%, there it is right there. So our placeholder layout for the tag is
it's the right size.
It's doing that, right? And that's effectively what you're doing. This becomes a placeholder, right? Or a prototype placeholder. Would be the term given. And
Cool.
yes, someone pointed out that we need to dispose of our value notifier, which, yeah, strictly speaking, you should.
Depose.
Depose. We're gonna depose the scale,
and then super depose.
So it's one of those things that you can do. Now there is another way of tackling something like this. So this is about top down, right? This is about top down layouts. So we're going to do a second version of this, which is like bottom up, which is where the layout imposes the text size on multiple widgets at the same time. This is the bit I needed the other day, and I didn't have a widget for it. And I was like, wow, I'm going to have to build my own widget for this. So let's do that. 12. No, it's not that. So visibility is different. The visibility widget is what's the best way to explain the visibility widget? So I'm very, I can't even find what I was looking at here. Right. So this is very particularly, I want this to be laid out and take up layout space, but not be painted. By setting an opacity set to 0, if you go look at, if we go into the inner workings of Flutter here, you'll see that when it gets to paint the child, if it's alpha 0 or there's no child, it doesn't paint it or anything down the subtree, and doesn't paint the child if it only paints the child if it's above alpha of 0. So it optimizes it out completely. You won't get any paint.
It would collapse the size too, because there wouldn't be any space taken up by
No. That's my point. This is going to lay it out but not paint it. Whereas visibility, you have to explicitly say that. So in visibility, we're saying, I want to maintain the state. I want to maintain the size, right?
Sure. Okay.
So you can, in this case, you would say visibility balls, right? But then maintain size true, right? Which, if you actually go look at what it's doing, so that's interesting. Anyway, sorry, just digressions. So this is passing over visibly maintained semantics if it's maintained size. Yeah, so which is what we want. So it's going to do this, right? And put in this widget, which is a single render object with widget. And where is it? Does the same thing. If it's not visible, return before paint. Otherwise, it still considers it laid out. I mean, honestly, It's not much in either case. They do the same thing. Questionably, one might be slightly more effective, more efficient than the other, but cannot maintain size if animations are not maintained. Okay, that's kind of annoying. Is there not dot? What's that dot maintain constructor? Is that? Oh, that maintains everything, and that's what we're not trying to do. We don't care about anything inside, right? I mean, I guess you could. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. Moving on. Right. Did that crash? Clear. Cool. So anyway, so now that is the same as what we had, right? Blah. Right. So where was I going with this? Yeah. So the other way of doing this. Oh, what happened to my file name?
Ooh. What happened?
So we're going to take this same example as number 2. I'll post this number 1 in a minute, and then we'll I'll put all the code we do gets posted, by the way, for those that haven't here. So okay, so we'll do a similar thing. In this case, this time, this time I want to track a number, and this is going to be I don't know. Yeah, let's. Yeah, we'll do this. We'll do this and see how we go. So this is going to be this tab count, and then in our body we're going to have a row, and inside that row we're going to have a raised button. It's an elevated button. Actually, we do an icon button. Why not? Icon button. We'll have a icons add. Is it add? Add. That's good. Tab count plus whatever. Plus. And icon.
Icon plus. Icon add, right?
Cool. And then we'll have a. In fact, I'll subtract minus remove that there. Sure. Right. And then by an at bar, I'll replace that with a row of, we'll make a little, we'll get rid of carousel widgets since we don't need that here. And we're going to replace that with bottom nav icon or something, bottom nav button, which is going to be a not material, inkwell wrapping a column with a icon.
Clickable column.
ABC, whatever. Snowflake, yeah, AC in it, whatever. Add some text. This is going to be tab index. So for this, we're going to need a which index, and then what? Do a value changed in on tab flutters.
There should be a light bulb rewrite that just adds the stretch there.
Yeah.
Click on it real quick. Column, light bulb, bing. That'll be quickly.
Sorry. What? The
Yeah,
light bulb.
That stretch. Yeah, it was there. If there was a light bulb on column, it added the stretch. Just because you have to keep doing it every time. It's like
No.
should
Right,
be
and then on. Could add it. I think stop us from adding it.
I make a pull request that creates a better column. It's just like a column except it has stretch.
It would be nice if there was maybe a name construct. I mean, would a name constructor make any better? I don't know. Right, let's see.
The problem is maintenance because you got to pass through all the rest of the args. We don't have an easy way to pass through args yet, except with macro.
Coming soon.
It's coming.
Right, and then let's do 4. Why not? Let's do 4. Tab count value.
Yeah. Then you could have an annotation that's just at better in front of column.
Better column. Done.
Macros. A blessing and a curse, I can already tell. It's going to be interesting.
There's better ways of doing this, but this is how I'm doing it. And we have wrap this with a ink. What's the last thing?
Ink just gives inkwell somewhere to scribble on.
Let's see what we get. Did I break it? I'm running the wrong app. That'd be helpful if I was running the right one. Right, so we should have plus and minus buttons on icon buttons on the screen in the center that we can add and remove tabs from, and then the bottom bar will show said number of tabs with icons. And this is just the kind of box screens with infinite width. We have infinite possibilities. What did I do? Let's have a look.
Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. The Spock philosophy, the Vulcan creed.
No.
The double infinity and beyond.
It's one of these. Oh, okay. I am now very curious. Okay, so now this is interesting. I mean, give it a fixed height, which I don't want to do, but Well, let's
Get my
let's
soul
just make sure.
satisfied.
Oh, okay. So there's a plus minus. It's definitely the bottom bar. And our tab count starts with the value of 4. No problem there. Let me just change it to material, see if there's anything weird going on here. How weird.
Things that want infinite space. Would dev tools help?
Oh, I mean, they're not expanded. I mean, I shouldn't complain about that. Oh, okay, it was that. Okay. Well, anyway, it does get to where I want to be, so that's fine.
Well, we're here.
Right. What was it? Right. Yeah. So now we want a. That, and then we'll put some padding here. And then we want to have set text. We could get rid of the stretch for a second. So that's the default center, right? So now we've got some tabs that we can select to the bottom of the screen. With like lovely touch sensitive splashes and highlight and all that jazz. Let's make this back to a bottom app bar. It should be fine. There we go. Now we get a slightly better UI. What we could do, let's just improve this slightly. We could do system Chrome.
You could make actual plus and minus buttons instead of just having plus and minus hang out in the middle of nowhere.
Now, why are you misbehaving? Right, I need to do something here. Let me just do that here. Oh, here's blue. Okay, so let me just check something here. Ah, no, it's me. It's all right. Me. Reset. Why is not my bar going behind? Is that going to be one of those weird, like, text 10 body? No, because that'd be the reverse. Let's just actually check something. Let's wrap this with a. Don't need that. That's really annoying. This just might be some of the native. I might have some old Android stuff in there going on. Maybe it's that.
Is this making a difference? I think edge to edge should go within
No.
the build.
Nope.
Okay. Well, sorry, Verde.
Let's try, but no.
Yeah.
This is probably more about the fact that the native Android theme that I've got going on here is like ancient and quite possibly changing something. Should not be doing this. We have a quick. Let's have a quick. Wow. Should we dig into this a little bit and then before we call it a day? I don't know. Should we fix the? Let's fix problem number 1 first, and then we'll come back to problem number 2. How's that? That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, we're coming up on 3 hours, so probably.
So yeah, what's really annoying is I was hoping for a
aha moment at least.
Well, sure. I mean,
that can always be useful.
with the color box behind, without the scaffold, I was hoping that we'd see red behind here because the with this being, if this was transparent, then what we should be doing is seeing through behind the bottom system navigation.
Yeah.
Edge to edge should give us that, I believe, by default. And then the when system UI bottom is enabled, the navigation might have an indicator. Oh, that's only if it's in manual. Yeah. I may not be targeting the right Android version. My target SDK is probably off. Min SDK.
24 instead of 29.
Target SDK. We could put 29. Give it a go. I don't think it's that actually saying that, but let's just give it a go anyway. Anyway, right, let's get back onto what we're actually trying to do here because we actually haven't got to that. What are we building? There's a new interesting thing that can, well, I'll show you. We basically want to make a nicely scalable UI. It's been working all along and I'm an idiot. How's that? Why didn't anyone tell me? Come on, you know this.
Not the way you do. What? Really?
Yeah, so when I was it's just that. Because I'm trying to run it before, if I was to, it's funny enough, the person who said about move to build is in essence correct, it would have fixed it, but not because it's in build, because it would have been run after we would have run Flutter widgets binding. There you go. No, so if you, I mean, these two could have been run. Another place to actually run this would have been maybe in a net app in make the stateful.
Yeah. It's
right. And then in a net state, run it here. Right. Because then you're also coping with it. But you kind of want to set it up before you get any native splash screen or anything, right? Which is right at the very beginning. So which is fine for it. So anyway, I'll put that back. Okay, and then back to this. We have a transparent one now. We can get rid of our. You can get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that as well. Okay. That was a bit of pulling at straws there, but you know, we got there in the end. Right.
I never
So-
saw anything red though. Was it red on your screen? I just didn't see it here at home.
What the bottom bit? No, because it had taken up that space and
Okay.
is flowing it correctly.
Oh,
So in this case, bottom app bar is automatically taking up the bottom inset. If I
okay.
change this to material, then we'll probably not get that. Yeah, there you go. Right. The bottom app bar already knows it should be on the bottom of the screen and it handles that for you, which is quite nice.
Cool.
But you can do it. I mean, the way to do it yourself, if you want, if anyone wants to know, is you're just basically saying, wrapping this with the padding, and then the padding is going to be media query dot. Always do the there you go.
Plain
And
text.
we actually want we only want the bottom edge, because the top edge would be the size of the title bar, which we don't want to add that padding to our bottom bar. So it would be edge insets dot only bottom. He says, why'd you put it there? What happened? What the hell happened there? I'll just type it again. Edge
Egg
insets only bottom. Right. And there you go. It's now got the bottom inset, and of course the material needs to have a type 0. Canvas, is it? I don't remember what it is. Card. I don't know what gives it the default color. Button. Oh. Okay. It was card. I was just being impatient.
Oof.
Right, there you go. So there you go. So there, yeah, effectively, we just recreated that by adding the material card, right? But bottom app bar, so exactly what it's designed for. So you know, put it back. Right. Anyway, back to where we were. So we've got what have we got? We've got this. We've got these tabs. What I'm going to do. Let's see if we can increase it. Let's just placeholder.
What does this mean? What does this mean? Get rid of empty read.
I could, yeah.
Okay.
Good. That's what I want to see.
I don't know what that is. I should look that up. Annotates a region of a layer tree with a value.
Oh, yeah. Why didn't it work? Next lines. Sure. It's kind of annoying. Because you're not constraining that axis, but the other one. Wow. Is that A0? Remember. Oh, well. Come back to it in a minute. Anyway. Right. But what happens if I want my navigation color to be a different color? Huh? Oh, look. No, it's not transparent anymore because the default light one gives you black. Will it, if I remove it, will it fix it all together? No, it looks like I do have to use it. There you go. Anyway, so where was I? Bottom nav bar. Right. So we've got these placeholders in there, but we've lost. I'm just like putting some text. This, you can see that place hold. Let's go to this place hold, right? And a number, right? So what's going to happen right now is, let's say we want our font size style. What? 16. Okay, there you go. So we could set this up to have, look, he says, and we didn't tell it to rebuild, did we? That's why that's happening. It's, right again. Right. So there we go. 3, 2, 1. And then let's add our text alignment back in there so that we can hit center. All right. There we go. So we've got 1 button,
Yep.
2 buttons, 3 buttons, 4 buttons, 5 buttons. Oh no, all my text is getting clipped. Why they all say place? I don't want to say place.
Place.
Right. And then so there's a kind of style that is sometimes expected, at least on some of these things, which I would say in this case I would expect, which is that maybe the text gets smaller, right? So even if you have your text scale factor turned up on your device, which is another thing that can happen, you kind of want these things to remain to have the text visible in the box, because if a user changes up their font size to like 50 or whatever, you don't want just the letter P on the buttons. It's not going to be helpful, right?
So the answer to this is, if you're on Reddit, would be to pull up the package auto size text. I hate that when people use that.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, so first of all, there's the go-to that most people do is like fitted box, right? So I can do fitted box.
Oh, there's that too. Oh yeah, just scale the thing. Oh my
right?
God, yeah.
Right.
Oh.
And the problem with this is this is kind of what you want, but the problem that you kind of get is that if it's hard to show in here, so let me just see if I can. I'm going to put some. Put the text.
Well, you're scaling a font and not actually scaling the font, which is
actually it doesn't work that way on necessarily on it's not rendered then scaled, right? This is actually scaling before it renders, but it's still
really
not,
okay. Yeah, it's still ugly.
What we're going to do in here, put the text in.
Well, it's nice to know that it does that. I didn't realize that it actually does.
Yeah, the drawing operations.
I guess that's to get rounded corners correct and stuff too, then, because there's lots of dithering in pixels when you do that. Interesting.
So, what we're doing here. So, what I'm going to do, just to make my life a little easier, just in terms of demoing this, we'll say demo tabs. What can we have as our demo tab name? Home, messages. What else do you kind of see in apps?
Settings.
Can you give us another one? News. There you go.
Is right.
And then I need to say ask on.
Panic. Panic.
Camera. I know. Whatever it is, right?
Lights. Okay. Lights.
Right. Action. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Lights. Action. Yeah. Right. So what we're going to do here is just say
lorem ipsum.
I could have done that, couldn't I? If this is less than Blah. No, minus one. Minus
Well,
one.
those
Minus
are
one.
fun.
Minus one. Whatever.
Fence post problems.
Right, exactly. Then what does have? Right, let's try that again. There we go. So now we have home, messages, news, settings, and then add panic, camera, lights. Okay, so now we see the problem at hand. Let's make the font even larger, just for demonstration purposes. So if I go and remove some tabs, you start seeing that you're getting different font sizes, which is atrocious.
Oh, ooh, yeah.
Yeah, because they're obviously trying to fit the words at different lengths, and especially when you get different languages, like, for example, German, where where the messages is like,
Oh, geez.
5 more characters, right? So
50 more characters.
Exactly, 50 more characters for one word. Anyway,
Yeah,
but the point being that it becomes really difficult, and then what you actually want to do when you're in this situation is have them all scale to the same correct size to represent them all on the screen, like we had originally when we had the same text length. So how can we achieve that? That was all of this is the setup for that. So we'll quickly just rustle up a solution for this, just so that we can finish the show before we die of old age.
You got 2.5 minutes. Go fast.
Let's add in. Let's set this up as default. What, 6 was it? No, 7. 6. That'll do. We can see the problem there. Is that visible to everyone? By the way, I think that's it's a tough one.
I can see it. I can see it.
So what we want to do, do you know what? There's something else we could do here. We could also do, there's also alignment. So that can kind of make things look a little bit better, but not by much. Oh, no, it's not going to do that at all. Thanks. I'm not even going to go there right now. Anyway, the point here is, well, how do we fix this, right? So what we need to do is work out what the native size of the text is versus the size that we can display it within. This gives us the scale factor to display that text in that space. So this kind of comes down to probably a bit of the render layer, I guess. Let's have a quick look. Think about this.
Aren't you going to have to render them all to figure out what the space is going to be for the longest one?
So there's something that I was thinking about doing, which is kind of interesting. And I was thinking about this from a perspective of like a grouping system. So no way you can lift state up the tree. I was thinking about having a host widget, which you wrap all your widgets that you want to size the same within, right? It maintains the state like a notifier, and then each one of the widgets reports their scale factor to it, and then like the larger scale factor wins. Does that kind of make sense? And then once that scale factor changes, it's notifying the children that it's changed. So essentially, but inherently in the layout itself, they automatically adjust to always fit, no matter how they get laid out. This is kind of like a neat trick in terms of taking advantage of that, so you don't actually have to muster up any sort of special behavior. It means that we would have to do a essentially little proxy widget that kind of does what Feedbox does, in the sense that it would scale the content.
It's kind of what Expanded does with a flex factor with parent data. You might be able to wire it into that.
Yeah. So you can do like parent. Yeah, you can do parent data as long as there's no other parent data in between. To be honest, like making it something that let's call this what do we call it? Scale together. Sure. Let's make a stateful scale together host. There you go. Right. And that's going to have a child widget.
Faraday says auto size group.
Auto size group.
Yeah.
Is that part of the auto size widget?
No. Just, well, maybe. Actually, it might be.
I mean,
Yeah. Yes, it is. Okay, he says.
oh, well, there you go then. Well, let's do it our way,
Already
and then we
does.
can go look at what they do. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, there you go. Better auto size group.
scale together host, and then let's make a we could do stateful, yeah. Okay, scale text. Right, and then this another child widget.
Auto size scope.
Right, so we have two kind of wrapper widgets that do nothing at the moment. Let's pop them in together. So we want a scale together around our row. There you go, done. And then around each of the text widgets, we could wrap it around, to be honest, we could probably wrap it around the button here, so it's in the same layout. You can do that. If we want to, my thought was just apply text scale. But if we want to scale the actual widget, we'll pop it around the actual widget itself. Let's do that. So, okay. Step one. Cool. Now they're all the same size because we're no longer scanning them. So we need to know what the child size is, and we need to report that up on what the child size is compared to its constraints, and send that up as reported, like a reported scale, right? So we need to be able to find when text scale comes in, we need to be able to find the parent state. So anyway, we're going to need a render object to do this correctly. So we'll say extend single child render object widget. This can actually be super child as it already supports that and does all that for us. And we'll create a missing override. Then we'll create a simple render scale text that instead extends render proxy box, which will do everything we wanted to do without having to worry about most of it. So we'll do that. Now, let's pop it in here. And as I said, when we update, let's update so as well. This is a covariant. Should be. Yeah. Okay. Why is this complaint? Is it because it's not a public class? Huh. And a public API. That makes sense, I guess. Right. Anyway, so okay. So this is like your basic render object. There's not much in terms of protocol at the moment. So we want to be able to get to this state and update a reported value. So we could have scale factor here. We'll set that as a double. We'll set it as 1 to begin with. Why not? And then we want to report scale. Double. Cool. Let's do that for now. Right. So what we need to do is is have access to the host state inside of our render object. So we'll pass that in. That is guaranteed to be here. There you go, host state required. And then we need to, normally what you actually do is we might need to kick something off when there's value changes. So what we'll do is we'll do this little nonsense, but means that we can then say when a value is set, we can then say like require mark needs layout or something, right? So if host state, because remember your render objects are stateful, so they remain even when your layout changes, right? So this is just a little bit of wrapping logic just to get us where we need to be. So I think this is complaining about the fact that it's a private type, isn't it? On a public. Fine. Right. So now when we create our render scale, it's going to say we need the host state. Well, context dot find ancestor state of type. And it was scaled together host state. There you go. Boom. And then when we update when our widget gets updated, we need to make sure the host state is also kept up to date, just in case. So we want to do this. There you go. So that's enough now to say that when our text scale widgets are created, they're now going to always know and be known about the host state, and that's going to be correct, right? Okay. So then when we do layout, form layout, which is the function that's called when layout is happening on a widget. When this gets called, what essentially we want to do is, I think by default it should be calling the child. Yeah. So it's going to compute the size and get that for the child, which is fine. That's what we want. What we actually want to do then is to say, based on the size of the child, in this case, actually we want the intrinsic. Let me get this right. Yeah, I mean, like, let's see where we're going. There's a couple of slightly better ways of doing this, but right now this should be enough. So size, aspect ratio. No, because I want the intrinsic size over the constraint size. So we'll get constraints coming in. We'll get a max width. This is the width of the parent button, right? That's the inkwell or whatever that's hosting our widget. And then what we want to do is get the child, which is our text widget or whatever child that we have. We want to get its max intrinsic width based on the constraints with the height.
Be careful that's not 0 if you're dividing by it.
Yeah, that's fine. You can't actually get divide by 0 in Dart. You get infinite.
I know, but it's like, I don't know that that's going to be good in the rest of your calculations. So.
Yeah, true. Intrinsic width. So what we should get from this, let's print, and we'll pass over an index just for debugging purposes, and we'll have
maybe if the child is always wrapped in some sort of padding, it's always going to have some width. Maybe
we'll find.
Yep.
We'll get there in a second. Right, now I want index to be passed over. I don't really care about if this is. Yeah, this index, sure. wrong one. Here we go. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.9, 1.6, 0.9, 1.3, 0.9, 1.2, right? So this is saying that our first tab is 97% of the width. Our second tab is 166% of the width. Our third tab is 91%, 132%. And if we add in another one, let's clear this and add in another one. Now they're all at 205%.
Yeah.
112%, and so on. So what we want to do is work out what the
divided by the max.
So we want to report this, right, to our host state. So report scale factor. And then the key here is also when we paint, hopefully, I believe the default implementation is actually there. Well, we could also do it in the well, let me just check something here. No, okay, it's fine. Didn't think it would work that one. So again, I'm gonna go and paint functions. Did I actually put that in the last one? Did I literally did that? Let me just check. I did print. I did print. Good. Okay, now we're getting paint. Cool. So now what we can do is we can wrap our context canvas with actually do I want to do a transform layer? We could do a transform layer. Yeah, okay. Pass that over. Okay. How was that? That works. Whoa, all that. Identity, let's just do that. Good. So let's get scale in here. So scale is host state dot. We need to listen to that value and change in a minute, but let's just do this. Say, get these around. Right, we only want to scout X and Y. All right. Okay, and we actually want to do the inverse. Would be 1 minus. Right? Am I thinking about that right? Or have I got that wrong? No, I want
1 over. Is it 1 over?
No. I think it's because let's just see where I'm going with this. Well, at least they're the right thing. So now we can say if scale And then we also need to do, where am I? This then. Something in here is not that's been streaming for too long. Right, let's quickly get to the end here. Right. And now I need to have this listen to the scale factor itself. I think what I might do, make that public, why not? And then we'll just listen to it. I'm just going fast here, really. If you actually want to listen to something properly, what you need to do is a widget gets attached and detached. A render object gets attached and detached from the tree. So you'll find that there is a. For some reason, it won't let me choose it, but there's an attach. Interesting. Attach and detach. So when this render object gets attached to the tree, what we actually want to do is start listening to our scale factor. So on scale factor changed. And then when we get detached, funny enough, we want to stop listening to it. This is very important that we do these kind of things and we don't leave it hanging around. It's all about the fact that this render object is going to stick around, right? So it's very much stateful. And if this gets changed, then we say mark needs paint, right? So if the scale factor changes, we need to repaint our widget at the new scale.
Mark is just a needy guy. He needs paint, he needs build, he needs all sorts of things.
And then if our host state changes, then we need to make sure that we remove a listener from the old one and add a listener to the new one, specifically if we're attached. And this way, so the idea behind this being that when the widget when the render object is attached and you change the host state whilst it's still attached, we remove our listener from the old host state scale factor, and then we attach our listener to the new scale factor because we set it here. So, all right, that's enough of that. Let's see what happens. Not a lot. So, you
still have some ones that are over 1, which is weird. Is this the revised after you fix the scale?
I want to know what the values are that I should be seeing. But I feel like this is so 0.5 should be 50%. Oh, but it's because scale is greater than 1. So hang on. Let me just take out that condition for a second. And okay. So that's definitely 50%. But what's really interesting is it's because the layout it's performing is based on the constraints coming in. This is incorrect now. So we actually want to redo this after we calculate our. Get rid of that instead. So child, we're going to call layout on and have the size of this one be the child size. That should be correct. Right. So this is essentially like the basics form of layout, but the constraints come in. We need to do something. We need to make some new constraints. We want type for one dimension and not for the other. Type for width, intrinsic width. Right. Let's see what happens. Well, we have all the words, so that's nice. We have the largest words in there. Our scale, our matrix, although applies a scale, does not center. So we would need to work out what the offset is to center it, but let's not go there just yet. Let's also work out why they're so small, because that's me. Hang on, let's use the actual scale number. That would be helpful. Also have an exception being thrown there, actually. Caused by timer. You're not writing your own renderbox subclass. This is not your fault. Well, I am, so it's my fault. Render scale does not meet its constraints. Correct. Oh yeah, because no, that's correct. That's correct. That is. Let me fix that. That was me being stupid. I'm in purpose making the child larger, but I need this size to be constrained. So constraints dot constraint size. That's what I want. Right. Cool. No more errors. So where was I with the sizes? So at the moment, is that the correct way around? Or was I doing it right in the first place? Let's have a look. Because it doesn't look right to me. Oh, that's definitely wrong. So would messages be so the longest one here? Hang on, let's see what happens if I get rid of some. Well, that font size is not changing.
Oh.
So I said if it's less than.
Something's not wired up properly for dependencies, as we said earlier in the show.
Oh no, it is. It's just
not working.
No, they are all changing the size appropriately. It's just the way I'm actually choosing to do it is incorrect. I'm trying to like make this cheap on the cheap side, because at the moment, if one gets larger, I'm not treating that as the correct scale factor. You need them to all report. You need them to all report their scales, and then in the render of the parent, you choose the appropriate scale if it's different from the previous one. Yeah. So there is a way of solving this, which is I was trying to avoid, which was to create a render object for the parent, because effectively you need to do it in one frame.
Yeah.
Which is kind of annoying. I was hoping just to cheat things. But let's take this back up to what? Let's go 4 for a second to see how this reacts. Okay, that's great. 3, 2, because we have a max. So okay, we need to center it. Fine. 6. That's actually doing what I want, right? If I'm not actively changing them, which is interesting, right? So we're getting there somewhere. Obviously, there'd be no great they were centered, and then I think we're just going to park it here because we've been going for way too long. But I think next week we could actually fix it.
Yeah,
people are interested. We can fix this up next week. So in this case, I'd say. So a couple of things that we can do. So one is we can if you want to do this at home, I'll leave this for the audience, but the matrix here, you can multiply this matrix with a translation matrix to work out what the alignment is from this for this child to be scaled within its original constraints.
Yeah.
So that's what we would do here to make that centered. And then appropriately, what we would need to do is create another one of these render objects, single child render objects. And then inside of that, all we'd need to do is have a perform layout function. And once it does super.layout, which will then lay out all the children, which means we can guarantee that all of these functions here have been reported their scale factors. We could then take the gathering of all the reported scale factors, work out what the largest one is for that frame, and then and then set that as the appropriate one for that frame. And then when it comes to painting, it will paint with the right scale factor. So that's as simple as it comes, really.
Yeah, it's only 12 steps. It's not too bad.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not that bad. But yeah, we'll get there.
8,
Right,
8.
let me post these on. Let me post these up, and then we'll call it a day. Was that interesting?
Was for me. People
How's
stuck
it?
around. People
Anyone
stuck
else?
around.
Find it interesting, everyone? Some people stuck around. That's good.
Yeah, it's always a good sign.
It's good, so we're not boring people to death. It's tough to be like watch the stream for like a long period of time, and we totally get that.
One last quick question. Only because it came up yesterday in chat with me.
Okay.
Final hello equals const text quote hello quote.
Yep.
You're creating a constant widget. Is that less efficient, differently enabled, or whatever than const hello equals text quote hello quote?
So you can't make that a member variable. You can't make a const non-static member variable.
Yeah, this would either be a static or would be a global, one or the other.
In which case, it makes zero difference. So a const global, if it, I mean, they're const, right? Like
Yeah.
for a final one is the only difference is the final one is getting initialized. The variable is getting set to the value of the const, right? Which is constant itself the first time you access it. But I mean, to be honest, it's like
so
you basically saving one assignment, right?
The const one would end up computing text of the text at compile time.
Yes.
And then reuse the value in different places if needed to. So it might do a little extra work trying to figure that out.
The reason why you might make a global const is because, and you can make other things that use that global const. So you can follow up the chain. As soon as you make a final, even though its value may be constant, the actual variable is not considered constant at compile time because it gets set at runtime.
Right. Okay.
Right. That's the difference, really. So you should try and make things constant wherever possible, so then you can get the highest amount of things like pre-allocated when the app starts up and pre-set up and everything else. It's a great thing. To be honest, it's much of a much, really. Depends on what you're doing. If I was building a library, that would be different in that. So.
I could also inside build do const something equals identifier equals whatever and use it a couple places, right? I could do that in inside build.
No.
You can't scope a const like that?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Should I try it?
Anyway, I'm distracting you from closing the show, so I should.
I tell you what, I'll post these things and we'll do a quick. It's only one line to type, right? So,
okay.
Here we go.
And you've already got some code, so you can do this.
Yeah, let me wrap this up. So the first example, what was the first example we did? That was scaling carousel.
Yeah.
Scaling carousel. Humpday Q&A, blah 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 blah. On the what's today's date? 8th already.
Yep. 8 is enough.
2025. I only got used to type in 2024. I had to go change it to 2025.
I know. It's darn year. It changes annually.
How dare they, hey? Right when I finally got it right.
No.
All right, public jest. There we go. It's the first one. Let's get that in. Let's get that in the chat here. There you go, everyone. That's the first one. And then our second example.
2025 is 20 plus 25 squared.
This is scaling tabs, tab text.
Just calling me. When people call me.
Incomplete. Incomplete. And scanning tab text on its way. Yeah. In the chat. Pardon me. So before we call it a day, still have you here. Let's have a quick nosy here. So you were saying that in a function, const blah equals 2. I mean, if the right hand side's const, sure.
Doesn't matter.
It's interesting though, because the variable is probably going to be made static at that point. This is like a hidden static, because you can make static variables inside a function. That's interesting.
No.
It's just, I think that would be the same as if you added if it was static, right?
Okay.
Because you've got a constant value, it's never going to change. So that'll be done. So the 2 would be initialized to value to the variable blah, but the compiler will probably optimize it out, right? Completely, as depending on how the function is being run. You can't, on the other hand, have a constant member variable. That's about it.
Static const there.
Because it's not constant if it's been initialized with each class. However, this is not, right? There's been initialized at compile time, and it's a global. It's the same as having a global at that point, right?
Right.
So, but as you were saying, like, you know, this could be final blah equals 2. And then let's say, I know, let's say it was const text, okay, right?
Yep.
So in that situation, the const text instance has actually been constructed at compile time, but the assignment to blah is going to only happen when you first access blah, the variable, right?
Interesting. Okay.
Or in this case, sorry. In this case, this is when the state object is constructed, and if it was late final, it would be when you access it. Sorry.
Yep.
Right.
All right.
So
that's more than I care to know. Yes. Cool.
All right. Let's leave it there.
All right.
Right, everyone.
Good.
Hope you had a good stream. We did. And we'll see you same time next week.
165 hours from now.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.